Now, understanding the basic structure of how these 4 single biveka Merkaba fields come together and shift axis to form 2 double biveka Merkaba fields within the triveka Merkaba field is really key. The reason they're giving us this level of the information is so we can begin to understand what happens during what phases of Hitharo and Hithalon. Because when I talk about this coming together with this and that coming together with that, this is precisely what takes place during Hitharo. Now, the Hitharo level we're going to cover tomorrow, but I'm going to take you through the rest of the steps of these new geometries. So that shows you where your bivekas fit into, the biveka Merkabas fit into the veka system. It shows you the base structure that they're all built on. Here's how a Cathara grid plugs into a natural biveka Merkaba. This is 11, okay? We should have had the numbers in there, but again, we're lucky we have the graphs at all. But this is 1 up through 12. This is 11. That's where the top end of the magnetic, the bottom magnetic spiral would be. This is the electrical spiral, and it cuts off at 2, at the 2 point of the Cathara grid. So this is giving you the actual proportions of once a Merkaba that's linked down here in the Iumbi point, once it activates, the center point axis becomes here at the Azare, which is between, this is gate 6 and gate 7, be it the internal Cathara or in the universal Merkaba. And this is the linking point for the Merkabas. This is where the action will happen when one Merkaba field becomes a double biveka Merkaba field, and they build from there. Now, what it looks like when you have this formed inside those, formed inside that, gives you this. Here's where I started to go slightly kooky. Yeah, doolally is a good word. Where is the one that goes with this? There it is. Is this one. This would be the next stage. And see, if you don't have the echo maps of the God World gates, you cannot get the sacred geometries of how Merkabas actually work and actually plug in together, because they are all built on the structures of the Cathara templates as they run through the Eka God World's gate systems. Yeah, it gets, color would be helpful, at some point, because there's so many lines at this point. I'm going to have a black blob in the middle of the paper if they put any more of what's going on in there. This isn't even showing the fields yet. What we're going to learn about are something called parameter fields, peripheral fields, actual fields, and base fields. See, when somebody says something simple like the 34 counterclockwise top is electrical, well, what part of it? Is it the field it generates or its actual self field? See, there's a negative positive effect, and I'm talking negative not in terms of bad, but think of photography, all right? The Merkaba field itself and some of its other components that we'll learn about in a little bit actually serve as like the negative film strip through which the positive hologram is generated. So very often, if it has a magnetic spin in its actual field, it will have an electrical spin in its what's called virtual field. This is the virtual reality hologram out here. This is the fake reality. This is the reality that's creating it. So very often there's a flip back and forth. That's why it can get very confusing when people are playing with Merkaba outside of its natural context, which is the Merkabic circulatory system, because that's what Merkaba is. It is the divine circulatory system of how energy from God's source perpetually spirals in and out of creation, in and out of manifestation. So this is the next stage. This is really what we're building. When we're building our little Akasha Merkaba that can go in 3 directions instead of just 2, it involves building these as well. These 2 double biveka Merkabas that come from merging the primal light fields and the density fields, the parallel with ourself and the parallel light field with ourself. This one, that would be the light field double biveka, goes into the gate system up here, which is the Eka primal light field. And then the other part, which would be the density down here, when you put the 2 densities, particle and antiparticle densities together, they form another double biveka that forms a manifestation, a density manifestation in the Eka God worlds. So this is the process that if we were going to master Merkaba, this would be our first stages in mastering it to get home to the Eka level. What's interesting is there's not a whole lot of choice left in the matter because this is going to happen in stages between Hetharo and Hethalon. And there's another stage of this that's really fascinating, and it has to do with something called resetting the Christos seed atom. Now, the Christos seed atom can be looked at as, let me see, probably go back on this one. Yeah, I will. I'm going to go back on this one just for a second. Show you what a Christos seed atom might be. Go back to the one we just looked at beforehand. And if you look right here at the center point, Azare point, right, between what would be gates 6 and 7, right? Oh, am I in the way? Right in here, in that point, the Azare point that we call the Azare, that would have a little crystallized atom of frequency. It's actually a crystallized atom that has 15 cells to it. A natural Christos seed atom has 15, not 7 cells. And it is literally the little tiny thing in the center of every Merkaba that spirals frequency out that allows the constant feed. There is a very specific interrelationship between the opening and closing of these points in a Merkaba field that connect to the primal light fields and the center point. There's a very specific flow pattern of how energy gets from here into here so it can come out to here. And this is what we're going to learn about. When we learn about the Christos seed atom, we're going to learn about the yun, the yan, the yun-yan, and the yan-e-sa. Yeah, yan-e-sa. Okay, so we're going to see where the seed atom, which is actually the core of a Merkaba, is the core of the shield template. We're going to see how that has to do with whether this functions properly, whether it stays connected to here, and how, if something goes wrong, severely wrong with the Merkaba fields, they can actually force this into reversal, and it becomes what's called a compacting anti-Christos seed atom. If you want to do that the fast way, spin both spirals in the same direction, and it will get you there really, really quick. All right? Now, most times it happens it takes longer for those things to happen. There's a reason why. It's actually part of the balancing system that was God put into creation itself, that if a thing went into expression of the opposite will of perpetual motion creation and attempted to sabotage the creation in its misuse of free will, there would be a certain point where its action and consequence balance got it to the point where its Merkabas would naturally reverse, its seed atom would reverse, and it would become finite until it self-consumed and did its own thing until it no longer existed. In other words, just because free will was given as a gift, it wasn't going to be given to the degree that any part of God that decided to get lost in free will could destroy the entire creation. All right? So the ability of a natural Christos seed atom, which normally spirals the frequencies from each of the counter-rotating spirals, the in-breath and out-breath of God, you could call these spirals, the potentiality for that to reverse itself and compact, where instead of expanding and allowing energy to move through it, it compacts and progressively can't bring any more energy in. The reason that's even there in the creation potential is as a balancing mechanism to the use of free will, just so it didn't get out of hand and wipe out the entire first creation. Because it was the first creation, which is the creation, is the one that was built upon the desire for perpetual motion, for eternal life, for open relationship between God and the parts of God it sent into manifestation to individuate. It was an open, love-built, co-creative system. And because it was, if you took free will out of that equation, Source God knew it had free will to create what it wanted. It chose because it was a loving being to create a loving system. But it also recognized that in giving free will, there was a potentiality, not the desire. Source didn't desire the creation of opposite expression, but in giving free will, the potentiality existed that potentially some of myself in time could get lost in there and decide it wanted to explore direct opposite expression of divine will. So that was allowed for within a framework, after which point of too much expression of opposite expression, where it got to the point where it would damage the original creation and potentially shut it down, the creation would rebalance itself. And that's precisely what we're going through. We're going through reseeding of the Christos seed atom, the second coming of the Christ, which is exciting. This is what it's all meant all along, all these teachings that we have little tiny fragments from. This is it, guys. And it's called Hetharo. Now, I'm going to show you another diagram. This one had me slightly buggy. Is this the one? No. I'll do this easy first. All right, so remember, we have this now, right? That one you just saw before leads up to that. The Christos seed atom each of the universes would have one, right? Each Cathara grid would have one at the Azure center point. You'd have a little one, like a God spark seed atom, and then there'd be a big one in the center of the Eka. That would be the one that belongs to the Eka in the Akasha level, and all the way up there would be this trail of little seed atoms that allow Merkabas, the living Merkaba, Merkabic circulatory system, to stay in motion. There's really neat dynamics that go with the seed atoms, because there's very specific times when the seed atoms, let's say a certain quantity of energy is given for a manifestation cycle, which would be a cycle in time of manifestation. After that quantity of energy is used up, a seed atom that's functioning normally would open again and allow a new influx of new frequency directly from source, while the stuff that was in manifestation has a chance to get out of manifestation and renew itself again by going back to source. That's the open two-way door between God and manifestation, and that's the way it's supposed to work. All of that is completely dependent on counter-rotation of the two Merkaba fields, so they do not phase lock and form a system that creates a phase lock biveka inside of itself where the energy can't go anywhere except in on its own self. So this is the Merkaba that we're actually building. This is the Merkaba field that our universe is going through during Hitharo, and Hithalan. That's interesting, seeing that most things in this universe right now have a hard time building a single biveka Merkaba. You know, those little ones with the two triangles. Fortunately, in the building of this is a natural structure that actually exists. What we're doing is waking it back up within our own system. What our universe is doing is waking it back up. It's not as if you have to go find it because it's someplace else or it died and you have to resurrect it. It's always there. But what we're doing is reopening our connection to it, our universal connection to that Merkabic form, which carries huge frequency compared to the little mutated Merkabas we're used to running around in down here. Now, when it comes to resetting the Christos seed atom, I think I'm going to go to that one first. And I'll show you where these guys live in the bigger maps. Oh dear, that was back here. In fact, no, I'll take it this way. Yeah, here, I haven't done these like once. You know, I'm not sure what the best sequence to put them is, but I think I'll go this way. Well, we've got that, and I'm going to show you how this fits into the bigger maps. That was our Akasha map. Okay, I think I'm upside down here, am I? Yes, I am. There you go. Okay. Now, next level. Remember, this is our little thing. Now, it's at a different angle because right now we're showing you how it fits within the Akasha A spectra. All right, that's where we'd be located. That's where that Merkaba that you saw, the Eka Merkaba, that's the Akasha Merkaba, and its pieces where it's double biveka here and double biveka down there and our Veka system in there, all of that. That's located here within its particular Akasha corridor, or Akasha A spectra, actually, Akasha A spectra. This goes up to the other level of first creation, where it shows you where that fits into. Where's the other one going? Where's the one going over there? Yeah, I need those. I go. This one. That goes into 7. Just. Okay. Now, that. If you take it up to the God world level, the highest God world level, core God world level, this is where it's located. So literally, it's a coordinate. Our Merkaba field lives as a part of the natural circulatory system of this entire structure. And this whole structure itself would have, each little part of it would have one of those. I would love to see somebody who is really, really good with computer graphics to be able to animate this, right? Put all these in, right? With the, exactly how they're supposed to be moving. Get the right spin directions and the right spin directions. Gosh, I might blow up the computer, I don't know. But it would be so neat to see this, because I can see it when I close my eyes. Try to close your eyes and imagine for a minute. All right, this is a beautiful, multicolored Merkaba field, beautiful Akasha Merkaba field with its two biveka Merkabas and universes within inside of it. And every one of these has one of those. And there's tons of them all spinning together and singing in harmony. There's a divine dance that goes on, the Merkabic dance. And when we do our spins and things, when we were in the early days when we were having to manually reset the Merkaba field, we were doing the dance consciously. But this is the whole system that we're connected to, and the Merkaba is what connects us to it. The Merkaba is also fascinating in structure, as we'll look a little bit more at this. Now, all of these that I've showed you, all the Merkabas, we're basically showing you what it looks like to have the Merkaba and its parallel and the parallel light fields together in the stretched out vector maps, right? Okay, because those maps are stretched out. If you remember, a long time ago we taught that everything takes place in the same space, right? It just appears. Distance is an illusion of the hologram. If we take that concept into understanding how the parallel universe and our universe interact with each other in the same space, what you get are gate alignments. All right? Now, the first phase in getting up into more sophisticated Merkaba mechanics is this. And God bless Az. He pasted up every one of those little numbers, and not only on this one. All right. Now, what this is showing you is here is a 12-dimensional Cathara grid, right? Okay. Now, interesting. Here is showing you something that we haven't really covered heavily before, is the connections. D1, dimension 1, is also same place and connects right into dimension 12, which connects into parallel 13. If you take it back to the Vecca maps, you can look at how those things would connect, and it actually ends up with the tail end of this circling back in on itself. This is how the spheres are actually formed. But if you look at it as a Cathara grid, the Cathara grids, looking at them this way, are very important because they give you the ability to see things that are very multidimensional in flat enough form where you can say, I'm here and I'd like to go there. You know, you can make maps where you can understand how to move your Merkaba and yourself into other spacetimes, and you can understand the relationships between these spacetimes. Now, this Cathara grid represents the Particum universe. All right, in our Vecca, this would be our Particum universe. Now, I'm not showing the light fields with it yet. I'm not showing the Cathara grid that goes with the light fields. I'm just showing the 12-dimensional density Particum Cathara grid. Has dimension 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What's interesting about these, each of these transmits out horizontally, and it creates the vertical Cathara grid, creates the horizontal running frequency spectrum. Sends out the frequencies. Now, when you look at these, all right, D2, that's simple enough. It transmits out the D2 frequency band. D1 transmits out the D1 frequency band. Up here, you have 3 and 4 with a lock in between them. These create what are called half-step dimensions, where there's a different interplay, and they're more flexible. They're like time warpable. There's more interaction that can happen in the half-step dimensions. These also allow for interaction with the Ark of the Covenant gates more easily. We're not going to get heavily into half-step dimensions other than to see how they would form through, because you have a lock here, a lock system that leads into what's behind the manifestation, which would be the divine blueprint rayon field. So you're getting a mixture of different currents here than you would have just from a natural, like a single current coming out. And it creates what are called half-step dimensions. Ouch, I'm getting a sore shoulder. There we go. So this is just showing you that the horizontal frequency spectrum is created from the Particum universe, Cathara. At the same time, this would be the parallel universe one. Remember, this would be down here, and the parallel one, when you stretch out the Vecca maps, would be over here, right? But they're all taking place in the same space, actually. So to get the gate alignments, what you do is you put this Cathara grid with this one. This one's running horizontally, and it creates the vertical frequency spectrum. All right? And it runs this way. Gate 1 is down here, and it runs up to 12. 12 is always north, okay, in whatever system. So in the Particum universe, that's our north, that's our south, that's our east, and that's our west, right? In the parallel universe, this is their north, that's their south. I get dyslexic. That's their east and that's their west. I think that works. Yeah, it's like I have to put it in front of me and say, okay, where's my left arm? No. When you put these together, what you get is this structure over here, which is the interwoven Cathara templates of Vecca systems. Now, you'd also have the same thing going on with the primal light fields of the Vecca systems. This becomes very, very useful if you want to plot what gates connect to what in the local sense. It also is very useful later when we want to understand where the Ark of the Covenant gates come in. If you look at this system here, that's the Particum universe one. Shows our gates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It doesn't show the primal light fields yet. Also shows you here that gate 1, our D1 gate 1, connects to D12, our D12, which is up there, which means it loops around and connects. And they both connect to parallel dimension 13, 14, and 15 through the center point, which would be the center point of that cross shape where you have the eka in the middle. They all cross through the eka, and that's how these frequencies line up. It helps to understand these because when we get into Merkaba, you'll see it's these frequencies that are feeding those spirals, that are creating the Merkaba spirals. The Merkaba spirals don't just start from 1 and 12. They start up from 14. They both come in from 14, both the ones that run horizontally and the ones that run vertically. What it's showing you is actually we're structured, the Veka systems are structured, and that means your body's structured too, on the potential of a double biveka Merkaba. What you have right now, and we're running around in down here, is a mutated single biveka Merkaba, which would be a top Merkaba spiral and a bottom one. But this other grid has a top one and a bottom one too that runs on the horizontal plane. So there's another Merkaba set that goes this way, and I'll show you that in a minute. But when we get to this, it's interesting to see the gate interfaces. So that was ours. Our gates are running up that way. These are our locks, okay, the locks between the block circles, or the locks, the density locks and the dimensional locks. When you go this way, you look at the parallel gate system. Parallel 1, parallel 2. There's our 7, right? You have parallel 5, where 3 and 4 go. Parallel 3 is over here, and parallel 4 is here. Same place, same interface as our 4 and 10. This 4-4 connection here, if you think about our planetary gates, you have planetary Stargate 4 Giza, right? It connects to parallel 4. This is why Giza was important. That's why they put the pyramids there, to mess with energy through these gate systems. So when you start to see the gate interrelationships, you can start to understand how energy is moving between them. You can also understand what's affecting what. You can also understand that once you figure out how to use that Merkaba of yours, where's the fastest way to go where? Because you can move between the gate systems. It's also key, this will become key to understanding Hitharo, because we'll see where certain beams of frequency come down from the echo worlds and do very specific things in relation to the seed atom. Now in this, here would be the seed atom. Here's our Cathara grid, our 12 dimensions. Here's the 12 parallel dimensions. Right at the center point, the Azure, where both of them, that would be between gate 6 and 7 in our system, and between parallel 6 and parallel 7. So that point right there, the Azure, is the linking point, not only between the two Merkaba spirals in our biveka, but also between the other pair in the parallel universe. The seed atom becomes important during Hitharo because it releases and opens, which means it allows the different Merkaba spirals to start to come together. When Merkaba spirals are allowed to come together because their phase lock and their axis is released, they turn into different types of Merkabas. That's how you build an Akasha Merkaba. So we'll take it from here and go to the next one. What time is it? Am I anywhere near? Okay. I may take a bathroom break in a minute. I think I will before I go into the flows. Yeah, just for everybody's sake. Okay. Now we'll come back down a little bit, back into simple double biveka. Single biveka Merkaba. Get my terms straight. This is where we get the concept of the in-breath and out-breath of God. The counter-rotation of spirals. It shows you that, okay, here is the Particum universe. And these are like from the Particum universe, where in the Particum universe, the top spiral is always the electrical antiparticle spiral. It runs pKa, or part of K, positive, clockwise spinning energy. It's actually coming over from the parallel. But in the Particum universe, the top spiral is always supposed to be electrical, and the bottom is always supposed to be magnetic. This is the incoming one, and this is the one that spirals energy back out, both up and down. Now, what happens with the Merkaba fields is very interesting. They spin in two directions, first of all. The spiral is spinning this way, creating a horizontal axis, and that's what creates this area inside where it creates a cone. It's not just a flat triangle, it's a cone of energy. But when they're working normally and the seed atom is functioning properly, they also spin like this on a vertical axis. And that creates what's called a parameter field. Now the parameter field is the primal light and sound field a moving primal light and sound field. This is like why real avatars, and even some of the fake ones can fake it when they use the reverse currents. You'll see very often a sphere of light around beings who have more of their Merkaba activated. That sphere of light, when it's a natural Christosphere of light, it's composed of D13, 14, and 15 frequencies that are kicked up into motion, into manifestation, through the spin, the vertical axis spin of the spiral. At the same time, on that same Cathara grid, you have the other spiral going in the other direction. And what it creates is a counterclockwise rotating. This is the magnetic spiral, base, particum units, and spirals counterclockwise. That creates a parameter field of counterclockwise movement. These are actually taking place in the same space. They're together. That would be a full Merkaba field, the top electrical and the bottom magnetic. And they are spinning together, one bringing energy into manifestation, which would be the out-breath, the exhale of God. As God exhales frequency out into manifestation. And the other one is the inhale, as God pulls energy back in to the self for renewal. It's the breathing rhythm of Source, literally. If you put those two spinning in the same direction, you choke Source. And that's literally what happens. You stop the breathing rhythm, where it goes until it has nothing more to gasp with. And that's what happens with frequency when you spin them in the wrong direction. Now, the top ones in the particum universe are the base electrical. They're supposed to, the base electrical particum units, they're supposed to go clockwise. And the ones in the particum universe on the bottom, these are the top ones, the ones on the bottom are supposed to go counterclockwise. There's specific ratios of spin speed that we won't get into here because it's not that important. We've covered it before. But these are supposed to spin at a base or a core ratio of 33 1/3 electrical spin to 11 2/3 magnetic spin, which gives you a cumulative 45, which is equal to the 45 of no spin. That is the ratio of the Divine Blueprint D12 Rheon field. So there's a whole relationship of numbers. When you get into the numbers heavily, which is, thank God, a chart that I didn't have to do this time, because I was looking at them and going, oh my God, shoot me now, because I can't deal with translating these. There's some very, very sophisticated charts on the plates that show this stuff right down into the level of how many protons, how many neutrons versus how many electrons of what spin direction and what charge does each increment in movement of Merkaba create. These Merkaba spirals are creating, literally creating, the electrons, the protons, the neutrons, the quarks, the mesons, all the little things that make up neutrons, neutrinos, all those things. They are manifesting them. And if you change the natural ratios of spin, you change how many, the relationship between how many protons, neutrons, electrons, you throw the natural balance out of whack. And that's what's being done with the reverse Merkabas. They're not only reversing them, they're changing the spin ratios, and they're taking it into a different spin ratio. That is they call it the Metatronic code. It's a base, it comes out to 55 instead of 45, and it sucks energy off other things around it, but it will implode on itself. It continually sucks inward, and it will impact on itself. So this is known as the in-breath and out-breath of God. The out-breath is the manifestation, exhale. The in-breath is the going back to Source and return. As long as those systems flow well, the whole Merkaba works well together, and you stay alive eternally. Now, the reason why we die is because our Merkaba hasn't been doing this for a long time, or our DNA as well. Now, if you put these two together, it simply creates this, and that is that single biveka Merkaba. Now, imagine this is going to be doubled, of course, because you have that one over there in parallel that we're not talking about yet, right? Yeah, it gets even more fun. You should see some of the diagrams that went with this. I don't know, maybe they look easy to you, but boy, I thought I was going to lose my mind trying to draw them. This one's easy enough, though. Shows you a Cathara grid, shows you your magnetic spiral, comes up from the bottom, from parallel 14 light field, comes up to the 11. Okay? This one, the electrical spiral coming down, comes down from parallel 14, down to 2. Now, not only do these create a parameter field, which is the outermost field, they also create what is called a peripheral field. And this is where, you know that radial body we learned about before? The radial body is the peripheral field. I say it wrong, I know. How do you say it? peripheral. I call it peripheral. I guess it's peripheral. I can't say it anyway. Anyway, you know what I think you know what I mean. If I have to spell it, I will. P-E-R-I. No, I won't. It's in the writing. Anyway, parameter field, peripheral field. I call it peripheral. Hopefully that's right. Right. If it's not too bad, that's how I say it. Pardon my retardation. But here, parameter field, peripheral field, which is radio body field. So therefore, that peripheral field would have 3 levels, right? We learned about radio body. You have your rayon level, the Manu level on the outside. The next level in is supposed to be your trion light field, trion units, made of trion units. And inside of that, which would be your pre-light field, and inside of that, you have your pre-sound field, or your mirage field. And then inside that, you would have your eros field, which activates when you activate flame body. And inside that, you would have your manifestation, or your virtual field. So the virtual field literally forms inside these standing, spinning, spherical waves of energy that form from this rotational motion. So right now, what we've got so far, and this is just, these fields are created just by the vertical spin axis. Now what's scary is when you mess up the seed atom and the way it's working and you don't have full counter rotation, you stop this spin from occurring, first of all. So you wipe out part of the fields here. But you still have that horizontal spin, where it's like, imagine a cone-shaped paper cup spinning. You know, it's not spinning around this way, but it is at least spinning as if you were taking it by its tip and going like this. All right? This is still spinning horizontally. So if you phase lock, it's called phase locking a Merkaba, by spinning them in the same direction. You stop this rotation, this vertical rotation from happening, which means you turn off the primal light parameter field, and you turn off at least part of the peripheral field, the rayon field, Manu aspect of it. Now, when things are working well, those fields, excuse me, hello. There's a lot of writing on these that you can read when you get them in your pack, because all these charts are what we've been staying up all night working on, so you could have them when you go home. Now, gets interesting. This is how, you know, those radio bodies we just talked about, how do those little balls of energy form inside of Merkaba fields? Because that's where radio bodies form. Where does the radio body that we saw the big diagrams of in the Dance for Freedom program, how does that fit in with this? Well, you have your parameter field, you have your peripheral field, and inside from that horizontal rotation of each of the spirals, there's another circulation of energy that's created. That's where you get the inner layers of the trion and mirage field. They create inside the spirals where the rayon level of the peripheral field creates outside, that's the rayon void field, and the light field, is the primal light field is around it. We've dealt with these so far in the radial body. We've dealt with the mirage field in here, trion field here, and the rayon field here. We hadn't even talked about the parameter field yet. So what's interesting too about these, this is the electrical one. This one, the electrical spiral, creates the trion light field. All right? It's base electrical. It creates the trion light field. This is considered the actual field. The Merkaba field itself, the cone-shaped thing, that's called the actual field. The trion field is part of the peripheral field. That's the parameter field. And inside all of this, you're going to have the virtual field, which is the manifestation of subatomic particles that become atoms, that become molecules, that become manifest stuff. All right? So all of that's happening inside. These are the things that are all around you. And these are how Cathara grids, radial bodies, and Merkaba fields plug in together. This is the bottom spiral. Now, there's two interesting. This would form the mirage field, which is much smaller. It's about a third the amount of energy. And so we try to show it like a third the size of the trion field. You have trion field here. It's not shown on here. What's shown here is the little mirage field and the rayon field. So you put these together, you get that thing up in the corner. Oops, wrong way. Get dyslexic. Okay. Here. You put those two together, and there is your simple biveka Merkaba with trion field, mirage field, rayon field, peripheral body, and parameter body actual fields, and inside there you would have your virtual fields. And inside the virtual field, you'd have your little tiny Christos seed atom that's allowing the energy to pulse in and out and breathe in and out through that whole system, but through the matter form itself. Now, there's this funny-looking flower-shaped thing in here, if you hadn't noticed. This is what we found on our glass after the lights came back on. This is a flow pattern. It's called a stans, which has to do with shields, all right, your shields, and how energy flows and circulates through your shields. Imagine if you were building a river, and you were designing a town, and you were looking at a map, and you're saying, okay, well, I'm going to make the river go this way, right? You would create a flow pattern that the river would follow. Well, the Christos has, as part of its natural programming, a very specific set of codes that allow for the natural influx and outflux of energy, so the radial bodies inside and the Merkaba fields outside and all of that can form. The flow pattern for the electrical Merkaba is called the Azur-Yan spiral. Right? And this spiral of energy, the Merkaba itself, is the Azur-Yan, or electrical top Merkaba spiral in the Particum universe. They're called the same thing. The electrical spiral is always the Azur-Yan spiral, and it uses this particular flow of energy to come in when it's time to reseed the seed atom. It's clockwise. Comes in clockwise, loops around, and creates 6 levels of expansion, actually, before it hits the same point where it entered, and then it goes back out. Now, understanding some of this has to do with understanding Hitharo. This is the expansion cycle. This is the expansion spiral that's expanding Man-A frequency out into, base electrical frequency, out into manifestation. Right? Through this flow pattern, the flow pattern doesn't continue all the time. It gets set one time, the seed atom opens, allows a new burst of frequency, comes in, and then sets the natural radial body pattern and expansion of energy. So the radial bodies literally start smaller down here, and they expand out for 6 cycles. 6 cycles of expansion till they hit the same point of frequency that they originally entered from, which when they came down here. And at that point, you have a renewal point coming, or you have the beginning of what's called the electrical peak cycle, where the Merkaba is spinning, the electrical Merkaba is spinning its fastest, and it has its most energy expressed out into manifestation, and the trion field is its biggest. That is the Hitharo point. And at the Hitharo point, some interesting things happen. I'm not going to go heavily into Hitharo tonight because I want to have the graphs to show you, because there's some very specific stages, many of them that take place within an hour on the 27th of May. But we're finishing those graphs. They were rather intense. But this is the natural flow of all natural Christos Merkabas work this way. The electrical one sets this stans, or imagine a flash on of a flow pattern. Not that water's flowing down like a river would. It's kind of the same concept. It is a flow pattern. But the energy doesn't flow like liquid. It doesn't flow from one spot to another. It flashes on and then off. That's how the shields work. It flashes in to manifestation and brings that energy with it, those frequencies with it, and then flashes back off. When it flashes back off, another cycle set in motion. Actually, there's a little bit more to it, because this one's doing it in synchronization with the other one, the magnetic spiral. Now, the magnetic spiral has its own counterclockwise rotation, where it brings energy out from here, that's been expended outside, brings it in to the seed atom and brings it back through this. And I have to go cross-eyed to try to see that flow pattern. I always get confused on this. The pattern is right, but I get confused on which direction I'm going. But it brings this energy back out into the light field. It takes energy from the parallel 14 light field here and does this with it to make the manifestation. Goes through all the different levels of breaking down into the primal life force currents, as we've seen in the other levels of the Dance for program. And then it spirals back out through this. Now, it also means 33 1/3 versus 11 2/3. You have 33 1/3 expansion to 11 2/3 contraction. And this is the balance, the natural Christos balance. Once, if it were even, it would be static. You would have a completely static system that did not flow. What happens with this is eventually this will reach expansion, and it will this will move slower. There will be a level of contraction left to this because it moves slower at a smaller speed rate, then this one moves faster at a bigger one. When this gets to its peak, this still has a bit left to go, and it reaching its peak makes this one spin faster to finish its final contraction cycle. This is what takes us into Hithalan, or the magnetic peak cycle, when the magnetic part of the Merkaba reaches its peak spin rate. And at that point, some very interesting things happen that have to do with the resetting of Christos seed atoms and double biveka Merkabas forming in two different places and entering a state, literally the universe, entering a state of temporary bilocation in ectoplasmic form. I mean, this stuff gets big. This is not easy when you get up to that level. But it all starts with understanding the basics of these levels, of how the spirals plug in with the Cathara grids, how they circulate the energy to form the radial bodies and the peripheral fields and the parameter fields. When you put these two together, now this is called the Azur-Yan stand, and that's the electrical one. This is called the Ashayon stand, also the Yan-Yon, the male and the female, the divine male and divine female flow patterns. Yes?
And Ashayon thing that for you, magnetic and Azur-Yan?
No, it's more like the other way around. We're named after them. They were here first. We're just passing through. Now, we put them together. You get your top spiral, your bottom spiral, and you get these two that come together into the, a Yanyune. This one's called a Yanyune, this flow pattern. These are actually sets when the seed atom is getting prepared to reset. These are actually mathematical programs of very specific scalar frequencies that flash on in your shields in sequence. And they're not just yours. You can't have this happen to you unless your planet, your galaxy, and your universe are having it happen. These are the universal reset buttons. These symbols don't work, and they don't refuel in everyday life. These happen when the full cosmic cycle, the full 6 cycles that were set with the original seeding of the first Christos seed atom, come back to their fulfillment. And it's a vibration in time, an eternal vibration in time, that once that vibration is come back to, then Hitharo happens. And reset and refueling happens again. It gets recharged. And whatever was in there that wants to go out gets to leave and go back up into the higher frequencies. So this pattern only comes into manifestation when it is time for the literally universal level. So our whole 15-dimensional matrix is getting reset. But the thing is, it's not just our whole 15-dimensional matrix. What's happening is the Eka is getting reset as well. So this is big. This is really, really big. And fortunately, the symbols are really, really small, and they're easy to work with, and you only have to induce them once or twice. These are going to be activating in the grids. The Yan and the Yon, I just call them Yan and Yon for short, are going to be activating in the Earth grids while we're here together this weekend. They'd activated in December in the Eka grids. So then they form this. That's going to activate, I think it's in between March and April, the whole thing. But it doesn't hurt to get it. You can actually, particularly if you have indigo coding, you can begin to activate these things in your body before they activate in the planetary shields. And it's a good thing to do that if you want to keep up with the pulse of the planet. Because if you're a little bit ahead of the game, you're not going to get to the point where you can hurt the planet because you vibrate too high. It's not going to work that way. The planet will keep your own vibration down. But you're helping the planet to activate that flow pattern that stands within itself by having it alive inside of yourself. So, and it only lasts for a little while. This for the during Hitharo, you go through each of the phases, and then you'd go through them again during Hithalan. Once for the electrical side, both of them actually activate to become this, and then once for the magnetic side. Then a whole bunch of interesting things happen that go into what's called the Ru Shate cycle, which is resetting the 12 pillars. Now, there's a lot more to this information, and there's a bit of reading to do that I'm not going to do to you right now. Everybody will be snoring, including me. Yeah. I just want to get you through. Am I off? There we go. I'm back. Okay. So to make it easy, what we've got so far here is this is the spherical standing wave fields that are generated by the Christic Merkaba. All right? Remember, the Merkaba is the actual field. That's the actual field that's spinning to generate the rest of them. All right. You have here your D11 trion pre-light particule field, which is composed of man-A electrons. When they manifest, they are electrons, but they actually, even though it's a positive charge, they carry a negative charge when they manifest because it's working like a negative to a photograph. Here you have your D10 Miage units, pre-sound field. These are the two that are generated inside, right, of that. After these things set and the larger cycles start to go in motion, that's where the radio body spheres come from. Here you have the D12 Rayon void field, which was set originally by the vertical spinning when the outside two were formed. And out here you have your radiant field. You can call it the radiant as opposed to radial. It's your radiant field, the parameter field, and that's the D13, 14, 15 primal light field, the antimatter field. Here at the center is your little Christos seed atom. And here around the Christos seed atom, within the Miage field, you've got your virtual field, which is your form constant, which is the place where outpicturing of manifestation occurs. So right now, we're all walking around in here. Okay? And that just shows you the structure of how Cathara grids interact with energy to form Merkaba spirals, how they interact with each other and with energy to create the spheres of the radio bodies, how all of these systems are interconnected, and they are all connected to Merkaba. Now, okay. Now this is a natural biveka Christos Merkaba with its natural Yan-Yune flow pattern, which again only comes on when you're reseeding it and then shuts back off and everything spirals the way it's supposed to. This down here is reading information that we'll get into probably tomorrow, because I don't want to get too heavily into the anti-Christos part of it, because I want you to understand the Christos part of it first. You know, what's most important is understanding how the basic fields work and understanding how that pertains to the universal level of how the fields work, so you can understand what Hitharo means and what is, you know, what we're looking forward to moving into in between May and August. And once we get there, probably the way it's going, probably Sunday is when we'll say, okay, and what is it they're doing over on that other side that's messing with the Merkabas? We'll look at that. We'll probably use the same diagrams to show you what happens when things are, you know, like put at the wrong axis or the wrong spin, if we have time to do that. But what's most important is not proving the others wrong. Who cares if they want to do what they're doing, teaching the reverse Merkaba? That's their business. It's not our job to prove them wrong. But what we want to do is show you what's going on so you know, and you can make your choice as well. At least you have the information. So this would be the regular biveka Merkaba, single biveka Merkaba that would form from one, like the Particum universe would have one, the Particule universe parallel would have one, and each of the light fields that go with them would have that setup as well. Now, to get those to turn into an Akasha Merkaba, an inner earth Merkaba, they all have to come together. They don't come together all at once. They come together in pieces, one during the electrical peak and one during the magnetic peak, one during Hitharo, one during Hithalan. So, I'm running out of steam here, verbal steam. Okay, let's see. I'll go back to these in a minute. Oh, we can look at these a little more closely for a second. Bless you. What? Okay. These are the symbols that we had put out before we knew where they fit in the Cathara grid or the Merkaba or anything, before we knew that they were the flow patterns for the divine blueprint being reset in the shields. This one is the Azur Yan. That's the one that's formed from the electrical Merkaba field that corresponds with the trion field. Oop, push it up. Okay, up. That's as far as it'll go. You want to see the little one? They're trying to see the little one. Okay. There you go. Okay. So this is what you just saw on the other page, that electrical Merkaba spiral with the Azur Yan flow lines in it, which resets the pattern, and the clockwise spinning outer trion field of your trion Miage field, radio body levels, and then your Rion field, void field, and then your parameter field, light field. All right. The next one, of course, would be the other part of that. Now we're going to do the induction on these before we go tonight. So it's just optical pineal. It's really simple on these. Stare at them and breathe, sort of. The next one was this one, which was the Ashion that was formed from the magnetic Merkaba spiral and corresponds with the Miage field. These guys spin clockwise, counterclockwise. They form, and it's easier to see this one this way, they form the Ayanyune, which looks like that. And this particular one has a coding. This coding corresponds to the arc of the covenant. So when the full arc is opening, when you're doing it opens the base 6 passage, which means when you use this natural flow pattern with this flow pattern, with it, it opens up the halls of Amaraya. 3-6-9 connection. Oops, we're missing a 3 and a 2 here. See, we just made these graphs. We still have to correct a lot of the missing numbers and things. But anyway, this is we call it the Azurite A. And it's really flow lines that run up this way, and then over here. So it's another set of flow lines that allow for the opening of the base 6 gates to the Ark of the Covenant, which allows for the host matrix, the indigo host matrix, to be created. We'll talk more about tomorrow. The indigo host matrix that spreads what's called the golden fleece frequency out so other beings that have only like base 6 templates can pick up the host matrix so they don't get put into monadic reversal or reversal of their seed atom during the process of Hetharo and Hethalon. So, let's see. I'm trying to get us somewhere before I break the night. Then I will break. I don't know what I'm going to do, though. I don't know what time it is. It's 5 after 7? Is it really? What time were we supposed to break? Oh, good. Okay. Okay, well, I want to break and let everybody do a bathroom run before we do the exercise. Okay. There we go. Is that better? That looks backwards to me. There we go. That's a little better. I think that might be it. Yes. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, okay. You think that I've got to get you to the point where you see the double Biveka Merkaba. As and I survived doing that diagram. I don't know how. It was wicked. It was beautiful, but it was wicked to do. Just going cross-eyed. I wonder why I wear my glasses for distance seeing now. The only place I can see is right here because I had to do these. Because we do these. We don't do them on the computer. We do them with whiteout pens and knives and stickies, paste-ups like he's doing right here. It would take us so long to learn to use a computer well enough to do this. Yeah, the whole thing would be over with already. We'd be on the next Etharo before we got to it. This is just showing you the stages. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting. This is showing you the stages, right? You just saw these. That's the electrical spiral with its yan, or azure yan. And the trion field radio body spins clockwise. That's the one that should be 33 1/3 rotation speed. And that's 33 1/3 rotations per trillionth of a nanosecond. And that's a billionth of a second. So, and that's the slowest speed, right? They build from there in increments of that ratio. This is the bottom spiral, the magnetic, that would go with it. And that's its Azur-Yun flow pattern. And the Miage field, free sound field that would form within it. Over here, that's what you've already seen too, is the two of them together like they actually exist, with the seed atom at the center and the Ayanyune pattern here. Now this is one single Biveka Merkaba. What happens when you put it with its parallel? Remember when we had this little diagram over here? Remember when we had our particum universe, Cathara, right? Which would be that, right? Then there's the one running this way. That's the antiparticle universe parallel, Cathara. They have one of those too, all right? But it runs this way. Their north, 12, is here. Their south is here. In the antiparticle universe, the bottom spiral is electrical. and the top is magnetic, but they still hold the same speeds as for electrical and magnetic. They still keep the same speeds as they do in the particle universe. Now, they also have their Yanyune flow chart, flow pattern. They also form their own Miage field, or Miage field, Tryon field, and Rheon field, or collectively peripheral field. They all form their own radiant field, or parameter field, and they all form their own virtual fields inside. And they are linked together with this one through the seed atom at the center. Now it gets really cool, and this is where it gets fun. We start to delve into the secrets of the Ark of the Covenant and related things. If you take the Merkabahs away and just show the fields that are left, and you show the gates, right? These are the main vertical column of the parallel that are running horizontal, right? And these are the main verticals that run on the vertical axis in our particum. These are the particum gates. These are the particae gates, parallel gates. These form what's called the staff and the rod, or the rod and the staff, if you prefer. These are the inner Stargate tools, because under certain conditions, particularly when seed atoms are resetting themselves, seed atom in the center, right? These all open up together and form a very powerful beam of frequency, and so do these. The rod and the staff activate. Now this is what's happening in our universal Vecca. It's also happening in our planet, and there's a whole bunch of things that happen before all of that happens all at once. What we're going to be taught before we leave, if you put your body on here, remember how your body fits into your Cathara grid, or your Cathara grid fits into your body? Okay? Let's say your body's running here. Say your arms are here, just stretched out at the side. That's also the axis of the parallel shield, Rishik shield, that I talked about as far as the steering wheel for the Merkabah. These are the gate combinations that go in the palms. You have 2 in your left palm. Parallel gate 2 is in the left palm and dormant at the moment. And in your right palm, you have parallel 11. These interface directly with what we'll get to tomorrow, with the Ark of the Covenant gates. What we're going to be doing is activating the rod and the staff within our bodies. And what this allows is for the, if you look at the level, where the gates are in relation to where the fields are. Here you have the Tryon light field, right? Now remember, there's 2 of those there, right? You have one for the parallel system, and that's separated, polarized from the one for the particum universe that we're in. 11 and 2 are the gates. That goes in your body as well as in the planetary body as well as in the universal body. 11 and 2 gates control the opening of the Tryon field into the Rheon field, the depolarization of the Tryon field, which is part of what building your flame body is about. This is the fastest way to build your flame body, and you really can't do it unless the planet and the universe are going through the process of fully activating the rod and the staff, because your body can't usually, under normal circumstances, can't do that without harming itself or the planetary grids. But when the whole universal structure is going through this, if you don't get your body to do it, it causes a problem for your body, because you need to be able to keep up the frequencies, to keep up with the pace of frequency building that the planet is going to go through in relation to the universal grids. Earth needs help keeping up with the frequencies that the galaxy and the solar gates are going to go through. And I wouldn't doubt it. There's going to be some very interesting solar activity happening around the Hetharo and Hethalon periods. I wonder how interesting. Anyway, what's happening in those periods, naturally, are the rod and the staff, will come into activation. That begins the process of Hetharo, which we'll get into tomorrow. It has about 5 stages to it. It's fascinating. You watch what fields do. Wow, thought the fields in here were going to stay round. They don't. They change shape and do really neat things. And this is what we have to look forward to, because our bodies are going to be having those fields do that around us and within us. So this is the reason why they wanted to give us this more sophisticated Merkabah mechanics, so we could really start to understand what is this Hetharo thing. By tomorrow, at the end of tomorrow, after we have the charts that show the arc gates, where they interface, the different stages of Hetharo, when we get all of that stuff in, it will make sense, and it's really not that hard when you see it visually. If you try to explain this stuff to somebody in words, can you imagine if we hadn't shown any pictures yet? Would you be completely lost and not care anymore at this point? I would be. Yeah, right, whatever. You know? When you see these, it's actually bringing the cognition to you in a different language. It's bringing it to you directly into the pineal through the optical nerves, where you're taking in the knowledge. You're absorbing it by direct osmosis. Okay? You might not know you have it yet, but it will wake up the knowledge right within your body, which means these are almost like tips of icebergs, and there's a whole volume of massive data, some of which would be pertinent to you each personally, that's attached to it. When you look at the diagrams, this is why it was important to us to get the diagrams so you could take them home with you when you go. These are like symbol codes unto themselves. They hold the knowledge, volumes and volumes of it. So if you just play with them, meditate with them, it's kind of like cross your eyes and look at them at 12 different positions of crossed focus and see what happens. You can play with them, and you will learn more from them. And you can ask your own higher self to interact with it, with the symbols in a way, with this knowledge in a way that's pertinent to you. What do I need to know? What does this particular form, this symbol, have that I need right now? And is there something this symbol needs for me? And it's because you try to keep it fair. If you remember, all symbols are made of consciousness. All consciousness is alive, is an aspect of the consciousness of God. So just like when you're dealing with any of the seers, or when you're dealing with any of the Vecca codes, we've taught that these are living symbols in energy. They may look like still lines on a solid page, an inanimate object. Just because you can't see their aliveness and their motion doesn't mean they are not alive and in motion. Same thing with these. So they're like Vecca codes of a different kind, and they are knowledge-holding codes. So we would suggest using them. We're going to play with this weekend, learning more about the rod and the staff as it applies to the planet and what we're going through, but also to our bodies and how to begin the process. There's a huge healing process that I'm still getting pieces. It's like still downloading. We're in the process of downloading it now. That has to do with, before these can fully activate, there's something called the 3 pillars of heaven that need to activate, that have to do directly with the Ark of the Covenant gates. And that's what we're here for. The 3 pillars of heaven are activating through the activation of the Zephardon temple at Newgrange, which connects directly into the Island's Eye Q11, which is out here, which is the temple called Atura, yeah. And that's the 11th temple in the Eka system. So all these temples are opening now. There are temples up there. They're just spots on the ground here. But there's spots in the ground here as well that have a crystalline base, and that we're opening major gates here. So we're going to be getting the first 3 runs of frequency directly from the Eka during this weekend here that will allow for the rest of the progression of activation of these. And by tomorrow, probably tomorrow night, we'll go through the diagrams that have to do with Hitharo and Hithalan, where you see how it's the progressive activation of these and what it does to the ones on the side, because these are just the vertical current ones, right? You have stargates over here and over here too, and over here you have them up here and here. What happens to those? We're just showing you on here, the ones in the center, right, in the center line. There's a fascinating process that happens during Hitharo and Hithalan, where these gates all fold up. And there's a little thing in the Bible, something about the heaven rolled up like a scroll and things. It's connected very much to the Revelations, some of the Revelations things in the Bible. And, yes, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, Ash, I'd always wondered, you just talked about the rod and the staff, and in the 23rd Psalm it talks about, do I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. Then it goes on to say, for thy rod and staff comfort me.
Yes, for thy rod and thy staff they comfort me.
What that was, and I wondered whether there's a connection there.
That's it.
That's it. And
That's why you can walk through the valley of the shadow of death and fear no evil.
Something else that I've noticed when I've looked at this Christos Merkabah field mechanics that you're describing there, we've actually had a crop circle at Barbary Castle in '96 that was the exact same configuration, spirals going off it.
Oh, neat.
And I just saw it up there and instantly recognized it.
Oh.
And you gave me the answer to what it was.
Oh, good. Glad we could be of help. That's neat. I didn't even know there was a crop circle that took on that configuration.
It's in Barbary Castle.
Barbary Castle. Okay. And that's connected to the Stonehenge grids. Yeah.
Stonehenge grids. And if you look at it from the air, it has the same circle
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of those, actually, and most of them aren't ours. Yeah. Anyway, this shows the stages that we just went through. It shows you that there's one in the parallel. It shows you how their axes form the rod and the staff. But what it doesn't show you yet is something really cool called the double bivecca Merkaba. Now, this is what I wanted to get you to before I let you escape. Yeah. This is the graph we deserve a medal for, or a lobotomy, one or the other. Yeah. It is. Yeah. North, south, east, west. Of course, there's all sorts of norths and souths and easts and wests happening, right? You have akasha. You have an akasha axis, which was, remember the big one coming down? You have your Vecca system with the akasha around it. Well, that would be this axis running here. You have your ecosystem axis running here. You have your particum axis, and it's in the parallel light field this way. You have the parallel densities and our light field running this way. And when you put them all together, you get two of those single bivecca Merkabas, two of these guys up here. All right. You get that when you put that single bivecca from the particum universe and that single bivecca from the particle universe. When you put them together by releasing the seed atom, which releases the polarity between the radial body levels, between the Miash field, between the Trion field, and between the virtual field, which is the reality bubble we're walking in. This process happens in Hitharo and Hithalon. And what's neat is this is just showing the two grids, the particum universe and the particle universe of the density fields. The same thing is taking place with the primal light fields when they come together. So what you have are two of these forming. And when the two of those form, it pops open the umbrella of the Trivecca Akasha Merkaba. So it's a fascinating, fascinating process. And what's even more fascinating is not just us learning to activate our Merkabas. Our universe is going to do this year. So is our planet. What might this look like? I'm still asking that question. And, every time I ask it, I get more graphs. And it's like, well, okay, that's what it looks like. But what does it look like in the hologram? That's what it looks like. No, it doesn't, Anyway. Now, there's one more I want to show you, and then we're going to take a little bit of, at least a quick bathroom break, because I do want to get to run the codes, which doesn't take long, but I wouldn't want to do that to you while you've been sitting here the whole time without a break at all. I wouldn't want to do that to me either. Okay, last one, almost last one anyway, that I want to show you. This is the one that had me ready for the funny farm, trying to figure out exactly what angles are those circles positioned at. Because no, they're not the same ones that they use in the other system. They have a different angle. They look like a butterfly with little wings instead of what fits perfectly boxed into the Merkaba fields. There's this. Oh, okay, I'll pull that up. Let me go from here down, okay, and then we'll get this up. See, we'll start up here though. This is what you saw on the last page, okay. That's the a single double bivecca, one double bivecca Merkaba. Now, if we go back over here to what we saw a while before, this is the Vecca system, right? This is the Akasha. There's the Eka there. Here's those four single bivecca Merkabas. Now, these two come together to form one of those, which is the density level one, which is the one that we'd shown. Then these two, the primal light fields, come together to form that one. They do it by shifting their axis angle. They shift from particum being here, this shifts this way, 45 degrees, and its particum universe is counterclockwise. This one, particle universe, is clockwise, shifts 45 degrees this way, and they come together there. And the same thing is happening up here, where this one is shifting that way, and that one is shifting that way. And that forms this set or pair of double bivecca Merkabas. These are fascinating because they allow for a condition of bilocation where you can keep your form down here and have it up in the Eka worlds at the same time. Now, this happens, and we'll go over this more tomorrow with the Hitharo phase graphs. It doesn't happen all at once. It's kind of confusing. It's like a dance where you have the magnetic spirals of the light fields going into merger, and you have the electrical spirals during Hitharo electrical peak, the electrical density spirals going. They do their thing, and then there's a cycle of energy building that happens between Hitharo and Hithalan, which takes place in August, where the next set, the spirals that got left behind, undergo the same process again, and then they merge with the others. So it's done in stages. It's done in steps. What this becomes here, once all of this activates, and it forms an open conduit between up here, what would be this place up here, which are the primal light fields of the Eka, and down here, this would be connected in there, are the primal, the density levels of the Eka. It opens a conduit running on that axis. Now, remember, our north was here, right? So that's like northwest, right? Axis, northwest here, running down to over here. The Merkabahs shift to this axis for a while. They stay, part of them are this way and the other part are that way until we hit Hithalan, where they all shift. This is the thing that was called the bridge zone shift that we talked about before. But these are the specifics of what Merkabahs are going to do when we go through it. And what Merkabahs do governs what radial bodies do inside of them, which governs what your Tryon-Miage field does, which governs what your matter particles are going to do, and governs what your electrons are going to do, and things like that. What's neat is once that open conduit is made, this next thing can happen, and this is what's lovely. This is the reset of the seed atom, the Christos seed atom. At that point, where the conduit opens, I'll put it over this way first. Okay. At the point where these two form by the shifting of the Merkabah spirals here and here to form the double bivecas, this opens up, which is the triveca electrical. Now in Hitharo, it's just the triveca electrical that opens first. When you get to Hithalan in August, that's when the magnetic part of it, which is this one, activates. So it goes in stages. But once this activates, this whole thing, and remember this is all spinning and it has each one, every time you see a Cathara grid, think of all the fields it generates inside itself and outside itself. Think of a Merkabah field. Cathara grid equals a biveca at least shaped Merkabah field, which equals all these sets of circles, right, that are the fields that they generate. So all of this has all of those going on in it. It's all spinning at its own, synchronized rotations. But what happens in Hitharo, the outside 7 of 15 cells of the Christos seed atom reset. It's the electrical reset. The outside 7 cells set, but they come in the center. They reset during Hitharo, and then during Hithalan, after several other things that are complex that I won't even touch today, that have to do with the rod and the staff activating and something called the golden fleece and Merkabahs changing shape and doing things and popping out and things like that. All right, we go through all that. We get to Hithalan after Hitharo, and then the 8 inner cells of the Christos seed atom come in. Now remember, these were inside first. These come in, come down, and push those others out, shift their axis a bit and push them out to form the full 15 cells of the Christos, the eternal life seed atom. Once the seed atom is reset, the field is ready to receive the 12 roof-shaped pillars, and that takes time. They'll be coming in about 1 a year after the Hithalan period. And each of the pillars celebrates, you could call it that, resets the entire spectrum for one-dimensional frequency band from the Eka level down. It's progressively rebuilding the divine blueprint piece by piece. It's the same way the first creation was set in motion in the first place. This is how the matrix was created. What we're actually doing is the first creation is a perpetual point of vibration that exists as a specific point in space-time within every matrix. It's the end and beginning cycle point. In the universal level, it's the Hithalan point. we're moving into vibrational alignment with that point. It's not that the point is coming and it was someplace else. It is always there. Now, there are two ways to get to that point. One is through naturally going through the very, very long 6 cycles of expansion that the universal Merkaba would give you. That's one way, where you'd eventually get back up to that point. And then you'd have Hitharo, and everybody would be celebrating because everybody could handle all the frequency because there'd be nobody that had mutated templates. That's how it's supposed to work. When it works the other way, which is if a system gets so damaged that it's ready to fall and go into implosion status, when the Eka itself is jeopardized, not just the Veka, but the Eka, that point of vibration, the Christos seed atom, whatever is left of it inside of the universal template, will kick back a frequency that will accelerate the whole thing as if the universe reached its last cycle, the end of its last cycle, and it will take it back through the first creation point in order to prevent it from falling and imploding. That's where we're at, and that's what we're going through, and that's why. So, anyway, yeah. What if? Wow, it's like 7:30. That's exactly the right time, isn't it? That's whoa, that's a first. I actually shut up and stopped talking right when we were supposed to. Right, thank you.
If one had training in natural base 12 Christos Merkaba mechanics, those taught on earth by Jesus Christ between 10 AD and 27 AD, and also taught by the true Grail Line races throughout Atlantean and pre-Atlantean history, and by the Christus founders races in our time matrix for over 950 billion years, one would understand the organic structure and purpose of Merkaba and how it fits in directly with the science of the shields, the eternal flame body, DNA template mechanics, universal radial body structure, 15-dimensional biospiritual anatomy, the maps of the ascension stargates, the creation of electrons, protons, neutrons, and atoms, and the role that the Christic Merkaba field and Merkaba vehicle play in relation to core first creation mechanics. Thusly, one would know the differences between a Merkaba spiral, a Merkaba field, a Merkaba vehicle, and the base, actual, peripheral, and parameter fields of the Merkaba. One would also understand the various Merkaba vehicle phases and how each phase directly corresponds to a specific matter density level, set of DNA strand templates, level of personal biospiritual identity, level of shield manifestation template structure, and space-time cycle coordinate, angular rotation of particle spin, and set of corresponding universal stargates. Should we take a detour here? Yeah, just briefly. Ash and I were talking about certain things to do with this and how we experience this thing we call consciousness expansion. And we were discussing areas of personal application and what we might and might not bring forward in the class. And we were doing this whilst waiting for a ferry that was 3 or 4 hours late a couple of days ago. And one of the things that we came into, which was a kind of a new realization for both of us, but seems very obvious, as a lot of it does once you've reached that point, is that this business of dimensional template healing, which is the foundation for your ability to what is called anchoring the benefits of frequency, which are also referred to DNA activation, these things represent, as you all know, the particle spin rate and the angle. Now, the thing about this that's interesting is that we realized that one of the frustrations that is shared by most people is that whilst you do all the techniques, you do the work, you don't actually feel, from where you're standing or sitting, that you're experiencing too much your expanded self. And the thing that we realized was that we're unaccustomed to tuning in with those aspects of our dimensional templates that are healing and are actually responding to the techniques, and it's happening so fast that we don't see it. Because the flashing on and off speed, right, at the levels that you're aspiring to experience are much greater than your perceptual and mental ability to actually perceive, receive, translate the experience, okay? And we actually realized in the conversation that by simply being aware of that more often, that it actually enables you to recognize parts of the higher aspects of yourself that you're striving to connect with, right? They're actually there and they are connecting with you, but it's happening so quickly that you're not accustomed to noticing it. So that when you think in other ways of expressing the same thing, when people talk about, well, there's no coincidence, is there? Or you talk about certain kinds of phenomena that people treat in a rather slightly more mystical way, which is an external way, which is kind of like, it's not really to do with me, you know, that didn't really happen, it's magic, it's magic. Well, really, what you're doing is you're denying that part of yourself. Because in those kinds of moments, they are the kinds of moments in which you have the choice of identifying the phenomena as being a brief encounter with the parts of yourself that you're trying to integrate by working with the techniques. They're really there. And it concerns us that after a period of time like this, quite a long period of time for a number of people, that there is a sense that not enough is happening in my personal development. And the discussion was about this area. And what we realized is what I've explained to you, is that if you allow yourself to notice or be prepared to just accept that a fleeting experience that is so quick, you doubt that you had it. And this goes too for those of you that are trying to open to communication from the GA as well. It's the same thing, but it's just appearing to be presenting in a slightly different form. Okay? I could go somewhere else with that too, which is about the Bardoa and the question someone asked yesterday, and if we have time, I might have a go at talking about it. Anyway, if one does not understand the context, purpose, and cosmic order within the Merkaba fields, one will be reciprocally unable to comprehend the context, purpose, organic structure, or natural function of the personal Merkaba vehicle, activation of which is required to achieve eternal life, ascension, time travel, or Stargate passage. The Merkaba vehicle is a transient Merkaba structure of interwoven, spiraling electromagnetic fields that, when activated, allows for molecular cohesion of the physically manifest atomic body structure during Stargate travel and ascension. Activation of the personal Merkaba vehicle is also required, and under natural conditions occurs automatically at specifically set time intervals in order to replenish the natural supply of life force energies through which the immortal, breatharian, original angelic human, and indigo Orifeme eternal life body forms are perpetually maintained. Unlike the Merkaba vehicle, the Merkaba field is not a transient Merkaba structure. The Merkaba field is a permanent and highly ordered natural structure of interconnected electromagnetic energy spirals that exists as an integral part of all creation. The personal Merkaba field is a specifically structured, intrinsic part of the natural 15-dimensional anatomy of every life form and manifest matter form. So if you hear people talking about advanced Merkaba techniques where you go and help a planet get its Merkaba, really? The personal Merkaba field represents the organic personal Merkaba circulatory system, through which consciousness manifests into space-time matter, and by which embodied consciousness receives a continual supply of life force energy, stream of multidimensional consciousness, and open personal relationship to God Source, while ensconced within manifestation. When functioning naturally, the microcosmic personal Merkaba field interconnects with the larger macrocosmic planetary, galactic, universal, and cosmic Merkaba field anatomy, the cosmic Merkaba circulatory system, and through this macrocosmic interconnection, the infinite worlds of microcosmic existence perpetually cycle into and out of manifestation via a personal, internal connection to an eternally living God Source. Everyone and everything manifest has a personal Merkaba field, whether or not one chooses to acknowledge the existence of this natural part of personal anatomy. If the personal Merkaba field is damaged, as the Merkaba fields of all Earth life forms have been since 208-216 BC, the natural open connection to the eternal life stream and the living God Source also becomes damaged, as the damaged personal Merkaba field cannot fully synthesize the natural life force currents perpetually emanating through the cosmic Merkabic circulatory system. A damaged personal Merkaba field is utterly incapable of activating the natural Merkaba vehicle, through which the divine freedoms of self-directed, space-time transit, natural Stargate passage, genuine spiritual identity integration, and real ascension are possible. Understanding of Christos Merkaba mechanics provides the technical knowledge through which one can self-heal the damaged Merkabic circulatory system, thus providing the tools through which one can reclaim the natural heritage of genuine, personal Merkaba vehicle activation. Now, on to more about the circulatory system. If one knew the basic precepts of Christic Merkaba mechanics, one would know that everything manifest has a specifically ordered, organic, 15-dimensional Merkaba field. The manifestation template or shield for a singular 15-dimensional time matrix is composed of the blueprints for 5 separate but interconnected 3-dimensional density radial bodies or energy capsule manifestation arenas. These collectively form the 5 harmonic universes of one 15-dimensional time matrix. Each of the 5 harmonic universal radial bodies is characterized by a specific matter density level, station of consciousness, and level of spiritual identity that enters manifestation via the scalar standing wave blueprint held within the time matrix. So, there are 5 density radial bodies that form 5 3-dimensional matter density levels and 5 corresponding stations of consciousness and spiritual identity in one 15-dimensional time matrix. This is a shift in sophistication many of you will realize on the introductory work of the tangible structure of the soul. And someone was asking me a question yesterday too, and what I needed to point out in part was that it's not often realized that as the work develops and becomes more detailed or more sophisticated or both, that sometimes new labels are used, words are used which mean the same thing that were being used at some time on another occasion or in another context or another part of the introductory part of the material. And this is so very true. I think that those who are most conversant in quantic science know well enough that the 3 Ps and the primal life force currents are synonymous with each other entirely, and yet you can use certain kinds of language like manu mana ire, and you won't necessarily realize if you're relatively new to the work that you're still talking about the very building blocks of quantic science. Every personal Merkaba field reflects universal Merkaba field structure, forming a 3-dimensional density radial body within the center of each of 5 personal density Merkaba spiral sets, which together form the tangible electromagnetic structure of an individual's personal 15-dimensional anatomy, through which the spiritual consciousness identity embodies to experience manifestation. The 15-dimensional universal Merkaba field is the organic structure or universal Merkabic circulatory system by and through which primal life force currents or consciousness perpetually flow from source in and out of manifestation, perpetually creating the 5 density radial bodies that form the 5 harmonic universes in every 15-dimensional time matrix through activation and deactivation of the corresponding dimensional frequencies within the time matrix shield. The 15-dimensional Merkaba field and the 15-dimensional Merkabic circulatory system of this time matrix, to which all natural personal Christic Merkaba fields are connected, have a very specific structure. Each of the specific 15-dimensional frequency bands of a time matrix forms one smaller set of 2 counter-rotating dimensional Merkaba spirals. And when these are fully activated, they represent one-dimensional Merkaba field. Thus, there are 15 smaller dimensional Merkaba fields in one 15-dimensional time matrix. Each of the 5 specific 3-dimensional harmonic universe density radial bodies forms through a larger set of 2 counter-rotating density Merkaba spirals that, when fully activated, represent one density Merkaba field. Thus, there are 5 larger density Merkaba fields, each containing 3 smaller Merkaba fields, dimensional ones, in one 15-dimensional time matrix. all natural organic crystal Merkaba fields possess this intrinsic structure, including the natural personal Merkaba field. This becomes the personal Merkaba vehicle through activation of corresponding dimensional frequencies, and activation means healing, remember, within the personal shield manifestation template. Activation of specific natural frequency sequences within the personal shield template causes each of the three smaller personal dimensional Merkaba fields in one larger personal density Merkaba field to activate synchronistically, allowing the frequencies of the three smaller dimensional Merkaba fields to merge together and expand into the corresponding larger density Merkaba field. When at least two larger personal density Merkaba fields, each with their three smaller dimensional Merkaba fields, when at least two synchronistically activate through corresponding shield template activation, the two larger density Merkaba fields merge to form a transharmonic Merkaba vehicle. And it is this that allows for the atomic structural integrity of the matter form within the vehicle to be maintained during Stargate passage through the voids that exist in between the harmonic universe radial bodies, otherwise referred to as the veils in other teachings. Activation of the transharmonic Merkaba vehicle causes the organic personal density radial bodies within each personal density Merkaba field to release their electromagnetic barriers, which enables the separate density radial body manifestation arenas of more than one matter density level and space-time vector to open into and merge with each other. Activation of the transharmonic Merkaba vehicle in biological life forms creates an intricate reciprocal set of activations within the chemical DNA, hormones, and neural networks, and this allows for atoms in one space-time vector to release atomic vector phase lock to shift their spin axis into the natural spin axis characteristic to the target time vector or another time vector. Release of the Release of the biological atomic phase lock allows the atomic form to turn light sound particle units within the spiraling Merkaba vehicle waveform, shift the Merkaba vehicle axis to the new space-time coordinate, and instantaneously re-emerge and remanifest the atomic form within the new space-time vector through subsequent deactivation of the transharmonic Merkaba vehicle. The activated transharmonic Merkaba vehicle creates at its center a natural, multi-layer, interdimensional, transient radial body structure called the transharmonic form constant atomic window. This is an elliptical sphere standing wave field that forms inside of the counter-rotating electromagnetic Merkaba spirals around the physical matter form. The form constant atomic window also forms simultaneously within the physical matter form around and within the manifest atoms. It is the transharmonic form constant atomic window wave field transient radial body energy capsule that holds the blueprint of atomic structure together. This during natural void transit or space-time travel, Stargate passage or ascension. The natural crystic Merkaba vehicle structure can form only through specific activation of the personal shield template and related energy structures inherent to the natural crystic Merkabic circulatory system, which is built upon the natural order of counter-rotating Merkaba spiral sets. Counter-rotation of the two corresponding Merkaba spirals in a spiral set means that the top Merkaba spiral spins in one direction while the bottom spiral spins in the opposite. This is the natural Christos internal Merkaba field spin relationship upon which organic eternal life, perpetual motion, cosmic, universal, and microcosmic structure is built. If one knew all of the above in relation to Christos Merkaba mechanics, one would also understand how it is through the very counter-rotation of the two Merkaba spirals that compose one larger three-dimensional density Merkaba field, and synchronized counter-rotation of the two Merkaba spirals that form each of the three smaller dimensional Merkaba fields. It's through this that the natural organic structure of the non-transient three-dimensional density radial body or harmonic form constant spherical standing wave field within which all manifestation takes place is formed through this process. The natural harmonic form constant is the organic density radial body energy capsule within which atomic manifestation of matter form occurs through the specific holographic projection of living consciousness primal life force currents. We'll stop there and go on to the internal divine Trinity and the inner Christ after we've done the induction of the Azuyan. Okay. Can you all see this all right? Yeah. Now I'm going to walk you through the technique slowly so you can relax. You don't have to remember anything or do anything, but just follow the technique as I read it. You need, though, to store just one piece of information, really, which is the position of each of the codes as we work with them. The Azuyan is related to the right hand and the right foot, the chakra of the right foot, right? So when time comes for you to be aware of the position of the code in your body, then it's right hand, right foot. Okay? The tone of this is Yan, which is right at the bottom, so those of you at the back won't be able to see that, but the tone that we use for this is Yan, but I will tell you again when we come to that place. Okay. So just bring your attention to your breathing. Usual introduction that we don't need to repeat now. Just spend a few seconds just regulating your breathing. Get yourself comfortable. And I ought to point out too that we don't use in the optical pineal induction for these codes, we don't use the cross-eyed method at all. It's just straight focus. All right, so begin by inhaling pale silver Maharic current from the earth core to the heart chakra, and exhale the current into a ball about the size of a grapefruit to form a pale silver Maharic sphere within the center of the heart chakra. And in your own time, take several more inhale-exhale breaths to amplify the intensity, strength. Build the frequency as a color image if you're able to visualize that. And when we speak about pale silver, by the way, I've said this once or twice before, if you know what Mercury looks like, that's what we're looking at. Now, open your eyes and bring your attention to the symbol here at the front. In whichever way feels comfortable, work at focusing and concentrating on the symbol. There's no need to screw your eyes up or do anything special. Just really focus on it. Lock on. Almost as if you and it are becoming one being. And through this, the entire group and the symbol codes will become one big one. When you feel ready, close your eyes. And as you do so, draw the image of the code with you as you're closing your eyes so that you lock it into your fields. Okay, bring it in now. Now inhale, in a moment, a pale silver cord of Maharic current up the central vertical current from the Maharic sphere in your heart chakra to the pineal gland. Use the exhale breath to expand Maharic current from the Maharic cord top, forming a Maharic spark of pale silver light at the top of the Maharic cord within your pineal. Now inhale, wait a minute, inhale whilst imagining that the Maharic spark in the pineal gently separates into two smaller Maharic sparks in the pineal, each of the smaller Maharic sparks drawing half of the Maharic cord with it. Imagine that as the singular Maharic spark separates into two, the pale silver Maharic current connecting the pineal to the heart chakra Maharic sphere also separates into two smaller Maharic cords. Each small Maharic cord is connected at the top to one of the two small Maharic sparks, and both small Maharic cords are connected at the bottom to the singular Maharic sphere in the heart chakra. So inhale, imagining that the Maharic spark in the pineal separates into two smaller sparks, drawing half of the Maharic cord with it. As the spark separates into two, notice the connection and the separation between the two Maharic cords. Gently exhale. Then inhale gently. Now breathe easy for a moment. I'll describe the next step. On the next exhale, you'll open your eyes and again focus on the stands symbol, the symbol code at the front. Imagine that the two small Maharic sparks connected to the two small Maharic cords at the pineal ride your out-breath when you take it, not yet. They'll ride the breath outward through the eyes and into the code image. The Maharic sparks draw the two small Maharic cords to which they are attached outward through the optical currents and into the symbol image. Okay, so take an in-breath. Open your eyes. On the next exhale, imagine the two Maharic sparks riding the breath into the code. Inhale and exhale gently a few times while imagining that the two Maharic sparks are each absorbing the entire geometrical and mathematical content of the symbol code. Try to sense the point at which the two Maharic sparks are fully loaded with the energy of the Azoyan. Now inhale, using the breath to draw the two small Maharic cords with their loaded Maharic sparks on the end of them back through the optical currents and into the pineal. Then rapidly exhale the two loaded Maharic sparks and their cords down from the pineal to the sphere at the heart center. The sphere at the heart center is now loaded with the Azoyan arc seal release program and its parallel arc seal program. Now inhale and then exhale, using the breath to gently push the loaded Maharic sphere downward from the heart to the Yombi point just below the navel. Inhale and then exhale again, using the breath on the out-breath to expand the loaded Maharic sphere outward from the Yombi until the loaded Maharic sphere expands several feet outward into your auric field, with the sphere, the Maharic sphere center firmly locked into the Iombi point. After the final exhale, inhale using the breath to contract the expanded Maharic sphere back into its grapefruit-sized form within the Iombi. Now breathe normally for a minute or two, and in your own time, out loud but not loudly, repeat stanza tone number 1, which is Yan, Yan, just 3 times. Okay. Now, time for positions. Call to mind the positions which the Azuyan corresponds, which is right palm and chakra of the ball of the right foot. Okay, inhale and then exhale, imagining that on the out breath, the Iombi point still within the loaded Maharic sphere, releases directly into each position point. Right palm, ball of right foot. A powerful starburst of electric blue D5 light contained within a pale blue Iombi point celestite energy bubble. Take several more inhale, exhale breaths, imagining that upon each exhale, the Iombi point releases another electric blue starburst within a celestite bubble into the Azuyan positions. Okay. Now bring your attention back to the grapefruit-sized loaded Maharic sphere at the Iombi point. Inhale and use the out breath to gently push the loaded Maharic sphere down into Earth's core. Imagine that as the loaded sphere passes through the Maharic shield center on its way to Earth's core, the symbol code, the Azuyan, bursts into the Maharic shield center and expands throughout the Maharic shield, just as the loaded Maharic sphere intersects with Earth core. You can repeat that breath if you want to. Remember that as it passes through the Maharic shield, it bursts into the center, expanding throughout the shield as the loaded sphere intersects with Earth's core. Now breathe normally and observe that when the sphere intersects with Earth core, there are starbursts continuing now, electric blue light emanating from chakra 13 at Earth core. And the D5 starburst there, the electric blue starburst, emerges. The loaded Maharic sphere rapidly shoots upward through the central vertical current up to chakra 14, 36 inches above the head. Then rapidly descends backward, down through the central vertical current and into Earth's core. Just breathe easily for a couple of minutes, and then we'll resume the reading on the inner Christ. Okay. Now, moving on to the internal divine Trinity and the inner Christ. All things within manifest creation share a common shield or manifestation template called the cosmic shield, scalar standing wave template. This is composed of depolarized, omnipolar, positive, negative, neutral, electrical charge particle units. These serve as the underlying creation fabric or cosmic unified field within and through which bipolarity, electromagnetism, and many sets of parallel universes and parallel time matrices can simultaneously coexist. The living consciousness of the cosmic shield represents the first perpetually individuating expression of God's source identity as God force or life force expression. This first expression of eternal living God force, life force, is known as the Manu force, often known as the Holy Spirit or even Great Spirit. From and within the unified Manu expression of God's source emerge simultaneously the two smaller polarized divine masculine and divine feminine, Mane and Ire, God force, life force expressions. And together, these first three expressions of God's source as God force, life force, create the true divine trinity of cosmic creation. The Manu, Mane, and Ire God force, life forces are not external creator gods demanding worship. They represent the first three levels of living God source consciousness expressing as conscious, sentient, intelligent life force energy existing within God source. And God source created a portion of itself as this divine trinity life force field of consciousness to serve as the unified field of living consciousness within which the experience of all manifest creation and identity individuation could take place. All energy, consciousness, and manifestation emerge within and are composed of the life force energies of the God force trinity. Separation from God's source is only an illusion we can create for ourselves, if we choose, while within individuated manifestation, when we forget the omnipotent nature of creation through the omnipresent God force divine trinity. Through the Manu, Mane, Ire God force divine trinity, the divine child of the cosmic Christ, known on the smaller universal level as the Christ, is perpetually born. The cosmic Christ is the living God force consciousness field created through the specific combining of the Manu, Mane, Ire God forces within a very specific divine design by which the first creation of manifest expression could occur, and this was enabled to remain perpetually in motion, and through which God's source and its many manifestations of self, we, you, us, can retain an eternal, perpetual, open interrelationship. The cosmic shield of Manu, Holy Spirit consciousness, serves as the cosmic still point of creation and holds within itself the smaller cosmic templates of divine masculine, Mane, and divine feminine, Ire consciousness, which are called the polarity shields, through which sets of negative electrical charge particum universes and positive electrical charge parallel particle universes characterized by the experience of space-time matter movement perpetually circulate into and out of manifestation through the cosmic shield and the inherent Christ code design of the cosmic, Christic, and universal Christic Merkabic circulatory system. Through the sacred Christ code, mathematical geometrical program for manifest creation, the Christos seed atom, and the divine blueprint for eternal life, and at one-ment with God's source, are perpetually created, as the first creation is perpetually renewed via continual circulation of the Manu, Mane, Ire divine trinity through the cosmic, universal, galactic, planetary, and personal, internal, Christ code and Merkabic circulatory system. through the first Christos seed atom, which exists as a living spark of God's source consciousness, expressing in the form of omnipolar standing wave energy the natural divine order through which dimensional structure, time cycle rhythm and synchronization, Merkaba field structure and spin rates, particle and anti-particle, and electrical magnetic polarity balances, and the expansion and contraction rhythm of primal life force currents into and out of a time matrix are set and perpetually recreated. All macrocosmic manifest expression, universes, galaxies, planets, beings, atoms, and so on, emerge through and initially carry the natural divine order of the first Christos seed atom. And every microcosmic manifestation of individuated expression also emerges through and initially carries the natural divine order of the first Christos seed atom. The first cosmic Christos seed atom, the living eternal cosmic Christos, exists within the portion of the cosmic shield known as the Christ or Christ template. The Christ is a specifically arranged living manifestation template existing within the divine trinity Manu, Mane, Ire, God Force consciousness field, which perpetually holds the divine blueprint or the precise technical specifications of divine order, upon and through which eternal life, cosmic creation is created. The cosmic Christos seed atom is the living sentient consciousness field formed by the intermingling of the divine trinity God forces, which emerge as an elliptical sphere standing wave body within the center point of the cosmic Christ template, allowing the unified Manu, Holy Spirit God force, to emerge within the Christos seed atom center as the eternal internal flame. This is the eternal internal flame of God consciousness, which is otherwise to be thought of or seen as an open two-way swinging door between God's source and the manifestation fields that exist within God's source. The eternal internal flame of Manu, Holy Spirit energy at the center of the cosmic Christos seed atom is often referred to as the Amoreia flame, which means the eternal flame of divine love, as many of you already have discovered. The cosmic Christos seed atom is formally known as something else you've heard of before, the Azare, which means the center point of eternal creation. Fueled eternally by God's source as a result of the eternal internal Amoreia flame at its center, the cosmic Christ seed atom perpetually creates smaller replicas of itself to serve as the living seeds and divine blueprint from and within which time matrices, universes, and their inherent matter systems are perpetually born. The smaller replicas of the cosmic Christos seed atom are called universal Christos seed atoms. Each universal Christos seed atom carries within itself a smaller replica of the eternal internal Amoreia flame, two-way swinging door to God's source, and expands outward from itself a smaller replica of the living cosmic Christ template, which is called the universal Christ template, or universal Christ divine blueprint. The universal Christ template serves as the blueprint for divine order of consciousness and energy through which manifest universes and their contents perpetually emerge and can perpetually return to the demanifest state of at-one-ment with God's source. Each 15-dimensional time matrix is seeded by God's source and the cosmic Christ seed atom with only one universal Christos seed atom. This first universal Christos seed atom perpetually exists within and manifests as the D12 universal Christos pre-matter liquid light spherical standing wave field. The universal Christos field is a conscious identity in being, a living aspect of God's source, sentient, intelligent, unconditionally loving, allowing, and aware. As in its own individuated creation, the singular universal Christos seed atom of a time matrix creates many smaller individuated replicas of itself called God seed atoms, or personal God sparks, each one imbued with the potentiality for individuated expression while retaining the God source attributes of the Christ divine blueprint, free will, eternal life, and the power of co-creation at their core. All individual manifest beings within a time matrix and its universes come into being through initial embodiment of the God spark, which exists as a living, standing wave of tangible, quantifiable radiation within the core divine blueprint shield manifestation template, upon and through which any matter form or individuate consciousness manifests. As manifest creation was set in motion upon the God source original divine intention of perpetual motion, eternal life, love-based, co-creative, free will expression, the universal Christos seed atom and its D12 universal Christos consciousness unified field embody this intention and thus love unconditionally while allowing the right of free will choice, even if that choice leads to the choice of opposite expression to the original intention and divine will of God source. However, as God source divine original intention includes the characteristics of perpetual motion and eternal life expression, as well as the characteristic of free will choice, the cosmic Christos seed atom and its universal Christos reflections also embody the characteristic of conservation of original divine intention, which expresses in terms of natural physics law as the dynamic of cause and effect, or action and reciprocal reaction, or as it often described as karma. In terms of natural spiritual law, the dynamic of conservation of original divine intention expresses as the law of reciprocity. The dynamic of consequence to chosen action and the significance of the temperance to free will choice. And what all this is talking about is really that every being that came into individuation understood this, and every being subsequently exercised free will choice in a way that, to the best or worst of its judgment, damaged its dimensional fields templates, such that it inhibited or limited its Merkabic circulatory function. Okay? To paraphrase all that I've been talking about so far. And the implicit drive, the thrust in this, is to do with the significance of this restoration, which is really rather obvious. But the fact that we knew that this very precept existed, and that this framework existed, and that these laws existed, and that the perpetual motion forever renewing itself, meant that if we chose to deviate from the principles of divine intention, the nature of divine intention without judgment and loving thoroughly and intensely and unconditionally moves forward, since it must, by the very laws of physics and the very laws of creation itself. So if we choose in a way which is not in alignment with the natural perpetuating and restorative nature of God's source itself, we will find that we will lose the connection with it, in which it will effectively move on without us. It will move on without those forms that can activate the Merkaba in a way that brings it completely into alignment with the mechanisms at the core. All right? And that's what's going on now. That's what the SAC basically is. All right? A little bit more than that too. Now where are we? All right. If through the excessive misuse of free will choice, the choice of opposite expression of the divine intention reaches a point at which it jeopardizes the perpetual motion, eternal life expression, and continued existence of cosmic order, the cosmos itself will restore order and balance through recreation of the divine blueprint, through the dynamics of cause and effect energy interrelationships inherent to the design of cosmic creation physics mechanics. This implies that there are indeed ordered, intelligent, natural laws of energy and consciousness upon which the cosmos functions in perpetual expression of the divine original intention of the God source that created them. Manifest creation was given the gift of free will expression within the greater context of divine will expression. As the natural laws of energy and consciousness are created as an expression of divine will intention, the free will choice of opposite expression will unavoidably have its consequence within the organic God source created framework of the natural laws of energy and consciousness. individual manifest identities can teach themselves some very difficult lessons of love and cooperative co-creation in this regard, as many fallen angelics utilizing external antichristic reverse Merkaba technologies have discovered. The universal Christos D12 density divine blueprint pre-matter living liquid light field represents a direct expression of divine will, original intention, and the embodiment of the natural physics laws of energy and consciousness through which that intention is perpetually expressed. The first Christos seed atom that each birthing 15-dimensional time matrix receives renews this universal Christos expression eternally. Everything must initially pass through the cosmic Christos seed atom and universal Christos seed atom divine blueprints in order to enter the manifestation arena, and everything, and without exception, must pass back through the universal Christos and cosmic Christos to return to full demanifest at one-ment with God's source. When manifest beings use their gift of free will choice within cooperative co-creative relationship to the intrinsic natural laws of energy and the original divine intention, the state of at one-ment with God's source can be known and embodied while within the manifest experience. Being both a sentient individual, manifest, and simultaneously knowing oneself as a direct embodied expression of Christic God source is known as the state of God actualization. This state creates the experience of fully engaged non-attachment, or not disengaged detachment, accompanied by perpetual unconditional love, peace, spiritual and material mastery, and ecstatic joy within the manifest arena. Manifest beings are unable to experience this state of God actualization due to the two-way swinging door to God, the living, eternal, internal Amorea flame standing wave of Manu, Holy Spirit, that resides within the center of the personal Christos seed atom Azure, at the center point of the personal inner Christ divine blueprint. The Holy Spirit, eternal, internal flame, is not just a spiritual concept. It is a tangible, quantifiable, standing wave of living Manu God force consciousness, expressing in the form of a standing wave of energy radiation within the universal Christos seed atom and within the embodied personal God spark seed atoms of every living manifest form. The personal God spark seed atom within the shield manifestation template of an individual exists as the portion of personal anatomy through which the natural energy conduits between the manifest self, universal Christos, cosmic Christos, and the cosmic divine trinity, Manu, Mane, Ire, God force, primal life force current, remain open. The natural energy conduits by and through which the primal life force currents, eternal life force of the divine trinity, God force, circulate from God's source through the cosmic Christos, universal Christos, and personal God spark seed atoms and back to God's source again are the many interconnected sets of counter-rotating Christic Merkaba fields. The Christic Merkaba fields inherent to the first creation divine design connect each individual manifestation, every atom and molecule of manifest matter, and every unit of consciousness to God's source, and to the eternal, limitless supply of living consciousness as energy that God's source perpetually provides. However, due to the characteristics of free will choice within the original divine intention and cosmic Christ divine blueprint, the perpetual gift of the universal Christic seed atom or personal God spark seed atom can be cut off or severed within the manifest systems of the time matrices and universes through excessive application or use of opposite expression, free will choice, and the consequence of energy and action such choice can bring. The natural function of the Christic Merkabic circulatory system is designed to operate interdependently with the cosmic Christos seed atom and smaller universal Christos and God spark seed atoms. Without the perpetual supply of renewed energy radiation expanded and contracted into manifestation through the Manu Holy Spirit eternal Amorea flame two-way swinging door to God at the Christos seed atom center, and the clockwise and counterclockwise rotating Merkaba spiral sets that perpetually expand and contract this energy simultaneously into and out of manifestation, the first creation would be a finite creation, as the original energy consciousness used to set creation in motion would eventually self-consume and expend its life force energy following the closing of the door to God Source. Just as the cosmic Merkabic circulatory system depends upon the Christos seed atom and eternal Amareya flame to provide it with continuous function, the Christos and God spark seed atoms depend upon the natural function of the Merkabic circulatory systems to circulate their eternal life force energy perpetually into and out of manifestation. The cosmic Christos seed atom and its corresponding cosmic Merkaba field spirals are designed to function in perfect balance eternally, ensuring that the eternal life are subject to the influence of free will choice, which means that the Merkaba fields of singular time matrices and universes, galaxies, solar systems, stars, planets, and individual life forms residing in them can become damaged or dysfunctional through the use of opposite expression, free will choice. Now, I think that's enough reading, and we will do the induction of the Ashayun next. Okay, the corresponding positions on the physical body are the left hand, or the palm of the left hand, and the chakra on the ball of the left foot. And the tone we use for this is Yun. All right, just give yourself a minute to wriggle around and set your breathing. Bring your attention to your breathing, right? Slow it down a little bit. Just take a few relaxing breaths as you come into focus. So begin again by inhaling pale silver. Begin again by inhaling pale silver Maharic current up from earth core to the heart center. Take several breaths as you build there a Maharic sphere. Building frequency, amplifying the intensity, the strength, and the color frequency. Okay. Now open your eyes, and again using the natural focus, not cross eyes, observe the Ashayun up here on the screen. And then close your eyes in just a relaxed way. On the next inhale, draw the pale silver cord of Maharic current up the central vertical current from the heart center into the pineal gland. And use the out breath to expand the Maharic current from the Maharic cord top, forming a Maharic spark of pale silver light at the top of the Maharic cord within your pineal gland. Now on the next inhale, imagine that the Maharak spark in the pineal gently separates into two smaller Maharak sparks in the pineal, each of the sparks drawing half of the Maharak cord with it. Imagine as the spark separates into two, the pale silver Maharak connecting the pineal to the heart chakra Maharak sphere also separates into two smaller Maharak cords. Each cord is connected at the top to one of the two small Maharak sparks. And both small Maharak cords are connected at the bottom to the Maharak sphere, the singular Maharak sphere in the heart chakra. Gently exhale and inhale again. And on the out breath, open your eyes and focus on the Ashoyan symbol. Imagine the two small Maharak sparks ride the breath into the symbol code. Inhale and exhale gently a few times while imagining the two Maharak sparks are each absorbing the entire geometrical and mathematical content of the Ashoyan. Try to sense the point at which the two sparks are fully loaded with the energy of the Ashoyan. Inhale using the breath to draw the two small Maharak cords with their loaded Maharak sparks back through the optical currents and into the pineal. Rapidly exhale the two loaded Maharak sparks and their cords down from the pineal to the sphere at the heart chakra. Inhale, then exhale, using the breath to gently push the loaded Maharak sphere down from the heart chakra to the Iombi. Inhale, then exhale again, using the out-breath to expand the loaded Maharak sphere out from the Iombi until the sphere expands several feet outward into the auric field, with the Maharak sphere locked into the Iombi point center. Inhale, using the breath to rapidly contract the expanded Maharak sphere back into its original grapefruit-sized form within the Iombi point. And breathe easily and call to mind the tone, yun. With the grapefruit-sized loaded sphere remaining at the Iombi point, slowly repeat the tone 3 times out loud. Yun, yun. Calling to mind the positions associated with the Ashoyan, left palm chakra and the ball of the left foot. Inhale, and then exhale, imagining that upon the out-breath, the Iombi point releases directly into each position point a powerful starburst of electric blue. Take several inhale-exhale breaths, imagining that upon each exhale, the Iombi releases another electric blue starburst within a celestite bubble into the left palm and the chakra and the ball of the left foot. final breaths. The inhale, then exhale, the out breath used to push the loaded Maharic sphere down into Earth's core, imagining that as the sphere passes through the Maharic sphere, passes through the Maharic shield, on its way to Earth's core, the Ashuyan bursts into the Maharic shield center and expands throughout the Maharic shield, just as the loaded Maharic sphere intersects with Earth's core. And breathe normally and observe that the result of the sphere intersection with Earth core is producing radiant starbursts of electric blue light emanating from Earth core. As the starburst emerges, the sphere rapidly shoots upward through the central vertical current up to chakra 14, 36 inches above your head, then rapidly descends back downward through the central vertical current and into Earth's core. Just breathe in a relaxed way for a few minutes. Okay. Natural attributes of cause, effect, and consequence is the necessity of a being to progressively restore each set of damaged dimensional frequencies within its own Merkaba spirals and shields template until the Merkabic circulatory system and shield manifestation template are restored to their original natural divine blueprint, by which the organic Christos God spark seed atom and its inherent eternal internal flame of Manu, Holy Spirit, can reawaken within the personal manifestation. In terms of experience, this restoration of the Merkaba and shield can often be accomplished rapidly in a single lifetime through conscious evolution, by which real divine creation mechanics are used consciously and directly to restore the D12 divine blueprint within the shield template and Merkaba field, thereby allowing the natural Christos God spark seed atom and the eternal internal flame two-way swinging door to God to reset within the personal shield. The path of conscious evolution allows for the most rapid restoration of the Merkabic circulatory system, through which the natural flow of primal life force currents, integration of their corresponding Christic attributes of consciousness, Christic eternal life potential, and the direct open personal connection to God's source are most easily restored. The path of conscious evolution is often referred to as the path of the God seed, an evolutionary option that is available to beings who have experienced a lesser degree of shield Merkaba field damage and who have not come near the critical mass damage point of monadic reversal. For beings who have come close to the critical mass damage point of monadic reversal and have entered the last phase of Merkaba shield reversal through excessive free will choice of anti-Christic opposite expression, the law of reciprocity necessitates that restoration of the shield and Merkabic circulatory system to Christic status be rendered more slowly than the rapid healing available through conscious evolution on the path of the God seed, which is why we have the issue of the 31-33% differences. We have the issue where there are those that can go under their own steam and those that need a host. Okay, the majority of people who are, some of which are still asleep, some of which are beginning to awaken, need the host that we're providing through the work that we're doing. And that's coming into more detailed focus for the first time during the course of this weekend. And as we move into the May Greece Paxos trip, all of this will come to a head. All right. And what's beginning to happen is that they're beginning now to flesh out in technical terms and in practical terms what we were introduced to, which we refer to as the ARC project, which was first mooted back in July during the Bermuda trip. All right. The path of the host is also known as the path of unconscious evolution, is a last resort for beings who have become ensnared within the anti-Christic illusions of the path of sorrow and who have failed to embrace the path of the God seed in conscious evolution before entering the last phase of shield Merkaba field reversal. Experientially, the last phase of shield Merkaba field reversal that directly precedes full monadic reversal, permanent conversion to the anti-Christic seed atom, and one-way entry to the path of divinishing return is characterized by an incarnational cycle that is known as the trial cycle, through which free will choice is progressively tested against the universal lessons of divine love, allowing an opportunity for accelerated learning of the natural laws of divine love. If the trial cycle produces a sufficient degree of learning, and the being becomes genuinely committed to the unconditional practice of Christic free will choice, the path of the host becomes the path of mercy, in which the final phase of monadic reversal is averted through the assistance of a host matrix, direct from the universal Christos field. Through the Christos host matrix, the damaged personal shield Merkaba fields are temporarily suspended within the host shield and Merkaba field of the universal Christos divine blueprint for a rapid evolutionary cycle through which the natural divine blueprint and God spark seed atom are personally restored. In order for a being to remain upon the path of the host, the personal shield and Merkaba field must be able to anchor a critical mass of D12 frequency from the universal Christos seed atom at the specific point in time when the trial cycle ends. If this is accomplished successfully, the being will remain upon the path of the host within a set of evolutionary cycles known as an ascension cycle, in which the personal shields and Merkaba fields progressively heal until the Christic divine blueprint, Christic Merkabic circulatory system, and the Christos God spark seed atom are fully restored to their original form. Following successful completion of the ascension cycle, the being returns to its organic Christic status and re-enters the natural eternal life cycles of co-created Christed mastery from which it originally fell. Now, if it isn't clear, there's a point in here that needs to be made. I'm aware that there's some dialogue or correspondence between people who follow the work that seem to think that a few of us can create a host matrix field while they sit on their butts wondering just exactly when it's all going to happen. Now, from what I've been reading, if you don't understand the word anchoring and this question of actually moving through the trial cycle in which your free will choice is progressively tested implies personal, individual action. If you don't take steps to anchor your own consciousness in the host matrix field, it will do you no good. Ash and I and the best of you out here can't create a field that does all the work for an individual. We can create the field. The individual has to lock onto it. As we, by the way, will hear about how we lock on to the field in the first place. Okay? And that's what's going to happen. She'll be talking about that tomorrow, I think. But the point we made differently as far as we're concerned, but I'm aware that people think that a bunch of us can do the work for other individuals, and that just isn't the case. Is that clear? Good. Right, the 11th hour tribulation cycle, judgment day, and the Hitharo, Hithalon, Rusheta cycle. If a being upon the path of host does not successfully embody a sufficient degree of the lessons of divine love and the corresponding critical mass frequency accretion during the final phase, trial cycle of the path of the host, the trial cycle will naturally lead to the final stage of monadic reversal, sometimes called the 11th hour, which is characterized by a short subcycle of time that is known as the tribulation cycle. Experientially, during the tribulation cycle, the forces of the Christ and the Antichrist emerge in full expression in a final conflict drama experienced as the battle between good and evil. In the reality of natural physics mechanics, this experientially externalized battle of forces represents the organic God spark seed atom's final electromagnetic resistance to the magnetic pull of the reversed antichristic shield and Merkaba field. And remember, this will be experienced inside and out. Be experienced inside and observed outside. The tribulation cycle begins when the Merkaba field and shield template reach critical mass reversal, in which their reverse spin and the counter forces of electromagnetic energy generated by the spin reversals enter an internal battle for shield control. If a being or planet, galaxy, or a universe does not anchor sufficient critical mass D12 divine blueprint frequency to remain upon the path of the host when the trial cycle ends, the tribulation cycle is automatically set in motion, placing the being within a rapid evolutionary cycle, or de-evolutionary cycle really, culminating in an event often referred to as Judgment Day. Judgment Day is not an event of God passing judgment upon the good and evil, casting the evildoers into hell and selecting those fit for ascension to heaven. Judgment Day is an event of natural physics laws that takes place when the internal electromagnetic battle between the Christos seed atom and Merkaba shield reversers reaches its final critical mass expression, or outpicturing, into manifestation. When the tribulation cycle brings all of the internal energy of power struggle out into expression within the manifest arena, the evolutionary cycle that began with the trial cycle period comes to an end, and the Christos seed atom is reset in the shields through the process of the Hithalon, Rusheta, and finally the Doradishi, or the Eka Shai. A set of interrelated events of Christic creation physics collectively known as the Great Cleansing and Renewal. Judgment Day occurs as the rapid Hitharo and Hithalon stages of the Great Cleansing initiate and fulfill within the shields. During Hitharo, the electrical Merkaba spiral peak. During Hitharo, the electrical Merkaba spiral peak, the 7 outer cells of the 15-cell natural Christic seed atom are transmitted into the template through a series of intense frequency infusions. Portions of the shield that are capable of anchoring, receiving and holding the progressive base 12 frequency infusions of the Hitharo receive regenesis of the outer 7 Christos seed atom cells, which allows the electrical overtones of the shield and Merkaba field to begin rapid restoration and healing of reversals, through which passage into the Hithalon magnetic Merkaba spiral peak stage of the Great Cleansing, which is August, and renewal is gained. If a being, planet, galaxy, or universe has less than 31 minimum, 33%, and there's a difference here between hosting and self-generated passage, so 31 to 33% of base 12 Christic divine blueprint coding remaining in the shields at the time of the Hitharo peak, the shield will be unable to anchor critical mass base 12 frequency to receive the restoration of the 7 outer cells of the Christic seed atom, and the electrical overtone remnants of the seed atom shields and Merkaba field will completely reverse to anti-Christic spin as the seed atom enters electrical molecular compaction and transforms to a finite life, 7 compacted cell anti-Christos seed atom. Now this happens if there is less than 31% available in the personal template. This unfortunate process associated with Hitharo renewal is somewhat tempered if the inner arc of the covenant passage is opened within the shields, as the golden fleece frequencies generated through the arc can serve as a base 6 half-step host matrix. And that's a buffer field. And this carries the being and its template through the judgment day of the Hitharo and into the Hithalon, providing more time and frequency support for the shield to reach the minimum 31% base 12 coding, if that is necessary. When the Hithalon stage initiates following a stasis period called the Hiesta, which begins as the Hitharo completes, the magnetic Merkaba spiral receives its progression of base 12 frequency infusions, through which the final 8 inner cells of the 15-cell Christos seed atom receive regenesis. Beings successfully passing through the Hitharo electrical peak of May receive full regenesis of the 15-cell Christos seed atom when the Hithalon magnetic peak arrives, August 2003, which enables them to pass into the next Ruche-Ta stage of the Great Cleansing and Renewal. During the Ruche-Ta stage of the Great Cleansing, the 12 cosmic Ruche pillars of the cosmic clock sequentially reset within the regenerated Christos seed atom, progressively healing shield, Merkabic, DNA, and consciousness distortions, culminating in the final and full reset of the D12 Christic divine blueprint during the Doradishi or Ekashai Great Cleansing end cycle renewal cycle beginning. Beings who experience electrical monadic reversal during the Hitharo peak experience full monadic reversal during the Hithalon, during which the 7 compacted cell anticrystal seed atom causes both electrical and magnetic Merkaba spirals to temporarily stop spinning. Then phase lock into the reverse spin anticrystal seed atom, and then adopt a reversed cell to become a compacted reverse spin anticrystal Merkaba field with a permanently closed circuit finite life seed atom at its core. The reverse spin phase lock Merkaba field causes the shield template to completely reverse spin, and the being enters a self-quarantined de-evolutionary cycle of degeneration, unable to receive renewal of primal life force currents from the crystic universal Merkabic circulatory system until final self-consumption of its remaining energies and black hole implosion of its own template and seed atom return the being to space dust units. The judgment day of the natural Hetharo-Hethalon cycle occurs within a set of fixed vibrational parameters within the universal shield template, which represent an external fixed cycle of universal time, with which beings and systems in manifest densities will inevitably enter co-resonant vibration as they move through the time cycles inherent to density evolution. If the shields are functioning naturally on an organic base 12 crystic code, the Hetharo-Hethalon cycle is not a judgment day, but rather a celebration of eternal life renewal, through which the universal Christos renews the supply of core primal life force for continued, self-sustained, perpetual motion crystic co-creation. If a system reaches critical mass shield distortion and falls to full monadic reversal, the remnants of the crystal seed atom of the shield will activate a specific set of frequencies that cause the shield to jump time pulses and rapidly align with the fixed vibrational coordinate point of the universal Hetharo-Hethalon. Crisis passage through this eternal universal point of perpetual first creation turns the natural Hetharo-Hethalon cycle into a judgment day drama, through which portions of the shields that can hold crystal seed atom regenesis are naturally separated from critical mass reversed shield portions that threaten the further existence of the remaining base 12 shield. This shield separation under duress during a crisis passage through the Hetharo-Hethalon is the last resort healing cosmic override system by which the continuation of the perpetual motion eternal life first creation is infinitely ensured. Beings and systems capable of anchoring sufficient base 12 Christos frequencies during the Hetharo-Hethalon passage will know the healing of the great cleansing and the celebration of the universal Christos renewal as they re-enter the original first creation Christos evolutionary cycle upon the path of replenishing return. Beings and systems that undergo antichristic alignment to fall during the Hetharo-Hethalon passage will progressively move into a type of evolutionary cycle through which they will eventually return to God source as undifferentiated space dust units following the path of diminishing return. Earth and our 15-dimensional time matrix entered the path of the host and the last phase of shield Merkaba field reversal in 22,326 BC Atlantis, when Earth races failed to embrace the conscious evolution path of the God seed, and we are now, between 2000 and 2012 AD, within the final phase and final drama through which the final destiny of joy or destiny of sorrow of this time matrix and its contents will be permanently determined. Earth's trial cycle began following the 22,326 BC Atlantean Eoni massacre drama, and Earth's trial cycle and the path of the host ended on November 24, 2002. It is important for the knowledge of the universal Hetharo-Hethalon to be returned to Earth at this time, because Earth has passed through its 11th hour trial cycle and has unfortunately entered the tribulation cycle that inevitably leads to the Hetharo-Hethalon crisis passage. Once the tribulation cycle is triggered into activation, the Hetharo-Hethalon alignment cannot be averted. It cannot be stopped. The tribulation cycle was triggered into activation between March 23, 2002 and November 24, 2002, due to the actions of the fallen angelic intruder races and their activation of the beast machine, the blue fire sword, and the spear of destiny technologies. It is for this reason, and a critical mass of humanity's corresponding indifference to and denial of the universal galactic planetary big picture drama that is now unfolding, that Earth has failed to remain on the path of the host and has officially entered the cycle of great cleansing and renewal. Earth's tribulation cycle will culminate in the May 27, 2003 Hitharo and the August 12, 2003 Hithalon alignments as the Ekashai Universal Divine Blueprint reset cycle unfolds to its completion on December 21, 2012. Full spectrum Christic Merkaba teachings are being returned to Earth now so that humanity can effectively prepare for these coming events. Our personal free will choices will determine which of the two evolutionary paths we will personally experience. Fortunately, due to the severity of the present universal drama, level 6 evacuation, and that's of the universal template itself, because of the nature of the actual threat on a cosmic level, as opposed to anybody wanting or needing to evacuate indigos per se. This is happening in this way because the universal structure itself is being threatened by the jiggering about of the fallen races wanting to make terminal wars with each other with a whole bunch of stuff, you and me included, in between. So the level 6 evacuation is triggered by the universal template issue rather than just people. And this was triggered within the cosmic shield due to the Wesa Drak activation of the Antichristic Spear of Destiny technology on November 24, 2002. This dark cloud has a silver lining in that the Spear of Destiny frequencies have set the cosmic override system in motion, sparking the opening of the base 6 half-step Ark of the Covenant Eka interface Stargate system, through which many more systems and life forms within this universe will be spared antichristic black hole fall to the Ark of the Covenant Golden Fleece whole host matrix buffer field, which is available only with the universal level 6 evacuation and the necessary full opening of the Ark of the Covenant stargates. Earth's great cleansing and renewal tribulation cycle has begun, and we rapidly approach the judgment day of the May-August 2003 Hitharo-Hithalon cycle. Following this time of transition, Earth will function as two Earths within the same space-time, until the final separation of the two timelines and reality fields during the December 2012 Ekashai cycle end. The event of a full Hitharo-Hithalon Rusheta Ekashai cycle has not transpired in this 15-dimensional time matrix for over 250 billion years of Earth time. We are presently living cosmic history in the making. One of our greatest tools through this time of unprecedented universal galactic and planetary change is the knowledge of Christic Merkaba mechanics, through which we can become conscious co-creators in the path of our chosen destiny. Yes, I will. Someone asked me a question yesterday about the consequences of all of this. In fact, two people talked to me about different aspects of the same thing. And our lovely friends in Canada were, I can imagine how they engaged and debate with each other about what they should and what they shouldn't do to prepare. And Mara reminded me that one of our evening conversations, the three of us, Ash and he and I, we were dealing with some aspects of how we talk to you and how we direct you and what we would feel responsible for sharing and not. Like, for example, if we knew that the San Andreas was going to go in a couple of weeks' time, we'd just announce to people to move somewhere else far away from there, you know. But as distinct from personal stuff, it's tricky because we're not to interfere too greatly in the way that we make these choices, as this should be apparent from what I've been reading. And what happened was, when I was answering this question, was there is something about the approach to this that doesn't even involve Bardoa transition per se. It's to do with how you allow another part of yourself to become present. Some of you have heard me talk before about bringing the sense of your full self into 3D here and now. And what that means, what it means to you attitudinally, what it means in terms of your behavior, how you hold your power, how you don't, and all the rest of that. Now, this story actually came up as a result of the exchange that Ash and I were having originally. And Ma'a tapped Ash on the shoulder and says, don't you remember the time you were both in the same body? And anyway, the short story here is that it was a time, it was kind of around Manoa and Greece time, okay? And we were part of a Grey Line community that was being persecuted and hounded, okay, by some, there were Omicron people. And I, we, she, me was a messenger. And we were like super fast, had immense stamina, and we were used for all the really critical, important stuff. And there was an occasion in which we were given a final, ultimatum. Otherwise, we were going to be massacred again, right? And this message had to be carried to the city, right? And part of the journey into the city involved actually going along a huge, like, seawall that was designed to keep the water out where they didn't want it to be. And it was 2 or 3 miles long, and there was a cliff face where there were different caves in there. I, we, she, me were approaching the seawall, and we felt the tremor of an earthquake. And this tremor built and built and built. And what Ma'a helped us to do was to reconnect with the feeling that we experienced when we realized that the earthquake was very, very, very big. And we could see caves in front, the prospect of the instinct, the primal instinct to hide, to find safety, as distinct from connecting with what was happening. We were on the seawall, running as we would like the wind, when the tsunami started to appear. And the point of telling you this is to do with an adjustment to your perception of these times. And the celebration that I, we, she, me felt when we were 2/3 way across that seawall, and we gave ourselves back to Source. The joy was absolutely unbelievable. We both just cried. Because the liberation, the freedom, as we were helped to remember ourselves merging and becoming the sea, and that we delivered the message to the city in the way that Source would. In its indifference, eternally loving, unconditional way, the city received our rejection of their terms. We went home. And we went home with the biggest smile you could ever imagine on our faces. Now, as you all find your own way to move through this time, remember that you are going to have a moment like this if you allow it. And part of your preparation, part of the way that you utilize your relationship to free will and choice has this depth in which you're delivering yourself into a time, space continuum with the potentials that you've blocked from memory because it's so painful for you to notice the difference between where you are now and where you were once. It would crack you up. You'd be in tears for weeks if you allowed yourself to bring all the memory back in one go. It's just too much for you to handle that. But what I want to say to you is, think positively about this. All right? Prepare for a time of celebration. Your transition will be wherever it's planned to be already by you. Don't be afraid. Don't store cans of beans in the larder. You know? Don't buy shovels and, invest in billions of liters of paraffin or what, Just go about your business, pulling yourself together as best you can. Don't be a fool. Don't be lighthearted with your power. Respect yourself. Yeah? But don't get panicked and don't entertain any fear about it. Because when the moment comes, God bless us all, we will remember to smile from here to here. Let's do some art code induction. We're going to do these back to back, okay? And then you can go to lunch. So stanza number 3. The Aryan Yune. Just stabilize your breathing again. On the out breath, expanding the Maharic current, the pale silver or mercury looking Maharic current into the heart center. amplifying the intensity, the strength, and the presence of the frequencies of the Maharic frequency. Take 3 or 4 more deep breaths and breathe slowly, gently, and firmly into the heart center. If you have your eyes closed, just open them just briefly. Focus your eyes on the A here on the screen. Just observe the code for a few moments and then close your eyes again. Then inhale a pale silver cord of Maharic current up the central vertical current from the sphere in the 4th heart chakra to the pineal gland. Use the exhale to expand Maharic current from the Maharic cord, forming Maharic spark of pale silver light at the top of the Maharic cord within the pineal. Inhale while imagining that the spark in the pineal gently separates into 2 smaller sparks in the pineal. Each of the 2 smaller sparks drawing half of the cord with it. And imagine as the singular spark separates into 2, the pale silver Maharic connecting the pineal to the heart chakra Maharic sphere also separates into 2 smaller Maharic cords. Each small cord is connected at the top to one of the 2 small Maharic sparks, and both small cords are connected to the bottom, to the singular Maharic sphere in the heart chakra. Gently inhale, exhale, inhale, and on the next exhale, open your eyes and again focus on the A. Imagine the 2 small Maharic sparks connected to the 2 small cords. Breath through the eyes and into the A. Inhale and exhale gently a few times while imagining that the 2 small sparks are each absorbing the entire geometrical and mathematical content of the symbol code. Now inhale using the breath to draw the 2 cords and their loaded Maharic sparks back through the optical currents into the pineal, and then rapidly exhale the 2 loaded sparks and their cords down from the pineal to the heart center. Inhale, and on the out breath use the breath to push the loaded Maharic sphere down from the heart chakra to the Iumbi just below the navel. Inhale and then exhale using the out breath to expand the sphere outward from the Iumbi until the sphere expands several feet outward into the auric field. And then inhale using the breath to rapidly contract the expanded sphere back into its grapefruit-sized form within the Iumbi. Now, because of the location of the A.Channel, which is at the Iumbi, we're going to combine the position and the toning together, but we will increase the tones to 9. Okay? 3 rounds of 3. And the tone is Yan Yun. Okay? The position is the Iumbi, and we do these 2 steps together. All right. Now just breathe normally. Okay. You have the grapefruit size loaded Maharic sphere at the Iumbi already. Now begin to repeat the tone in 3 groups of 3. Yan Yun, Yan Yun, Yan Yun. Next 3. Yan Yun, Yan Yun, Last three. Yan Yun. Yan Yun. Yan Yun. Now take a deep inhale, and on the exhale, imagine a starburst of electric blue with violet and indigo exploding throughout the Iombi point, surrounded by a bubble of silver and pale blue frequency. Take several more inhale, exhale breaths, building the sense of frequency. Out. Inhale and prepare to push the loaded Maharic sphere down into Earth's core, remembering that as it passes through the shield, on its way to Earth's core, the symbol bursts out there, just as the sphere intersects with chakra 13. So in, breathe in, and on the exhale, push the sphere down towards Earth core, bursting through the Maharic shield center and expands throughout the shield as the sphere intersects with Earth core. And then the radiant starburst of D5 electric blue emanates from Earth core. The loaded Maharic sphere is rapidly shooting up through the central vertical current up to your 14th chakra, 36 inches above your head, and then returns rapidly to Earth core.